The story begins with a black-haired young man who was badly injured, his hands tied, and he had no idea how he ended up in that situation. In front of him stood a massive orc declaring that the next to receive divine punishment would be the human who had invaded their sacred land. That place was holy to the beast folk and had been completely isolated from the outside world for thousands of years. For the first time, a human had appeared there. The orcs considered this an act of war. The young man couldn't understand what was happening. Just a few hours earlier, he had been in a cave and had no idea how he had ended up in this strange world. 5 hours earlier, he was eating while doing cleaning work inside caves. A coworker was chatting with him until another one called them both to get ready. The heroes were arriving, which meant that in that world, there were not only heroes but also cleaners. They entered the cave and soon saw a huge glowing portal ahead. From inside the portal, several people wearing armor emerged. They were the heroes, confident that it would be easy to handle everything since that cave was classified only as rank C. The young man who had been calm just hours before was named Tsuyoshi Tsukishiro. After the heroes defeated the monsters known as Darklings inside the cave, the cleaners, also called trash collectors, entered to gather the remains. These cleaners had no connection to the heroes. They came from completely different worlds. Tsuyoshi had failed the awakening test because of his physical condition, but he still dreamed of becoming a hero. Because they had limited time inside the cave, they needed to work quickly. While searching the area, Tsuyoshi found a fragment of a shield. One of his co-workers commented that it was worth some money, and he got excited by the find. He decided to explore a bit deeper into the cave. There were still 3.5 hours left to finish the job. After all that time searching, he found it strange that he hadn't discovered anything else. If all he had was a fragment of a shield, it wouldn't even be enough to cover one day of Karina's medical expenses. As he thought about that, a co-worker showed up to tell him it was almost time to regroup. Tsuyoshi was still worried. Then he found a pit and felt the scent of treasure coming from it. Without missing the chance, he decided to investigate. Looking inside, he was surprised. There was a ring clutched in the hand of a skeleton. He went down, believing the heroes hadn't noticed it, and decided to take the ring. He examined its details and got excited. He thought it might be a rare item with some special effect that could help cover Karina's expenses. He planned to wear the ring for a bit, and later asked Mr. Nakazato to check its level. As soon as he put the ring on his finger, a light began to shine. He felt something strange, as if an energy were seeping into his skin. A system panel appeared, and a voice informed him that he had obtained the Ring of No Limits. The system said the ring had recognized him as its owner, and that from that moment on, it could neither be removed nor have its ownership changed. The limitless passage would open soon. Tsuyoshi didn't understand what that meant and tried to figure out whose voice it was. Suddenly, the ring opened what looked like a black hole, a portal to another dimension. He screamed for help as he was pulled in. The other cleaners were alarmed by the screams and began searching for him. But Tsuyoshi was no longer inside the rank C cave. When he regained consciousness, he realized he had been captured by beastmen. Now, he was before an altar, about to receive divine punishment. That punishment seemed to be a terrifying lightning bolt that struck the altar. From Tsuyoshi's perspective, it was clear that place was considered sacred by them. The Beast King was present and wanted to begin quickly, as there were 3 criminals to be executed. The first was forced to kneel, an ogre who had sold confidential territorial information to elves and humans, branded a traitor to the nation. The Divine King's hammer, surrounded by punishing lightning, came down on him with crushing force. The orcs cheered at the execution. The next to receive punishment was the human who had entered their sacred land, the first human ever to be punished there. Tsuyoshi was desperate, trying to understand how things had escalated to that point. He had only gotten lost and arrived there by accident. He still thought of his sister Karina. He needed to return to her, and he still dreamed of becoming a hero, so he didn't want to die there. At the moment the lightning of divine punishment fell upon him, he managed to dodge it. Everyone was in shock. The orcs couldn't believe what they saw. Nothing like that had ever happened before. Tsuyoshi quickly stood up but was struck again right after. At that instant, the ring on his finger began to glow and activated the divine selection system. Even after being hit, the system began constructing his supreme physique. He also received a skill called Divine Eye, and he felt as though something was calling to him. As the process continued, the creatures around him began to tremble. The fact that he had resisted the divine hammer amazed them. Once the supreme physique was completed, his status now showed that he was the chosen one. He then picked up the hammer, and the system informed him that he needed to become stronger to unlock its full potential. The next creature to be judged was a beast woman. She was shocked to see a human holding the divine hammer. Tsuyoshi looked at his own status and realized he had grown much stronger. One of the orcs approached. It was the general. He declared that a human like Tsuyoshi had no right to touch the hammer and demanded that he drop the weapon and accept punishment. At that moment, the Divine Eye skill activated, and Tsuyoshi began obtaining detailed information about everything he looked at. Focusing on the orc, he discovered his name was Ryuga, a level 84 warrior. Tsuyoshi tried to reason with him, as he didn't want to fight someone so powerful. However, Ryuga ignored all attempts at conversation and charged at him with the intent to kill him instantly. An explosion shook the area. Tsuyoshi managed to grab Ryuga's weapon and blocked it with the hammer. He was amazed by the weapon's power. It seemed to absorb the impact effortlessly. Even as Ryuga raged, Tsuyoshi tried to speak again, but Ryuga lifted him as if he weighed nothing and threw him into the air. While airborne, the system notified him that the absolute replication ability had been activated. With that skill, he could copy one of the enemy's techniques, but to do so, he had to touch their heart. Without hesitation, he did exactly that and placed his hand over Ryuga's chest. At that moment, Tsuyoshi saw several abilities appear before him, feeling a bit overwhelmed by so many choices at once. Ryuga couldn't understand what was happening. The young man had touched his heart directly. As Tsuyoshi processed everything, he found a skill that perfectly matched the hammer, Heaven Shaker. He chose to replicate that technique and then struck the orc with all his strength. Everyone around was stunned by what they had just witnessed. Even so, the blow wasn't enough to defeat Ryuga. Suddenly, the Beast King appeared at the scene. He looked at Tsuyoshi and said it seemed the divine hammer had chosen him. To the king, this might be a true sign from the gods, for in hundreds or even thousands of years, Tsuyoshi was the first ever to be acknowledged by the hammer. The king explained to everyone present that if this young man truly was the future leader of the beasts, they should give him time to grow. The others agreed, as the prophecy had spoken of this. Ryuga tried to argue that Tsuyoshi was only a human, but the king questioned what was wrong with that. He also asked if the prophecy had ever stated that the leader must be a beast man, making it clear that no one should ignore the one who represented their people's hope. Ryuga then apologized to his king, admitting that he was right. The king asked the young man's name, and Tsuyoshi replied that his name was Tsuyoshi Tsukijo. The king declared that if the boy was truly willing to carry their future on his shoulders, he would grant him freedom, but made it clear that he was still far too weak. He said Tsuyoshi would have 1 year to grow stronger and return to that very place, for only then could they judge whether he was worthy of becoming a leader. The king touched Tsuyoshi's forehead and explained that he had left a mental mark. If the young man failed to return within a year, the king would use that mark to hunt him down and kill him, no matter where he was. Tsuyoshi was now bound to that people. The king wanted to hear the boy's answer. Tsuyoshi was unsure of what to say, but everyone around him began urging him to accept. A beast woman who was also going to be executed told him he should earn his freedom and become stronger. He looked at her using his divine eye ability and noticed that he couldn't see her name, but saw that she was a level 72 warrior. He was confused, not understanding why someone like her had been branded a criminal. Tsuyoshi then answered the king, saying that he accepted the offer, but he imposed one condition. He wanted to take the beast woman with him. Even she didn't understand why. He simply thought it was fair, and now they would be even, with no debts between them. The scene then shifted to nighttime. The protagonist was reflecting on everything that had happened. It had all begun with that limitless ring. The ring was still on his finger, and thanks to it, he had gained strange abilities. Now he wanted to understand how he could return to his world. The beast woman appeared and said that the preparations were ready. She called him master, which confused him. She explained that she had decided to serve him because he was her savior. Then she mentioned that it was getting late and started walking away. Tsuyoshi sighed, thinking that this other world was truly amazing. But then he remembered that Karina was still waiting for him. Thinking of that, he asked the ring to open the limitless passage. A portal appeared before him, and he believed he could finally return home. Without hesitation, he stepped through and vanished. While floating, Tsuyoshi felt that the sensation of space-time distortion was one of the worst he had ever experienced. When it finally ended, he found himself back inside that cave, and grew excited upon realizing that the abilities he had gained in the other world were still with him. His level remained the same, but the hammer had been left behind. He then understood that personal attributes were shared between both worlds, but items could not be carried over. Suddenly, one of the cleaners appeared, asking what all the commotion was about and telling them to get out before the cave closed. Tsuyoshi asked why they were still there, believing he had been gone for hours. That's when he realized something strange. He had spent at least 5 hours in the other world. One of the cleaners explained that everyone had been in the same place the entire time and told him to hurry out before getting trapped. Upon emerging, Tsuyoshi realized that time in the other world was completely still compared to this one. Now he wondered if time there was frozen at that very moment. Thinking about it, he asked one of the cleaners whether the next awakening test would take place the following day. Memories from the past began to flood his mind. Before any of this, before even finding the ring, his life had already been difficult. There was a day when he had to run while carrying his sister as a massive monster destroyed the entire city. She said she couldn't feel her legs, and both were injured. During their escape, the monster captured their parents. Tsuyoshi's father shouted for him to keep running, warning that if he stopped, he would die. die. He begged him not to look back for any reason and to save his sister before the darkness caught them. That's how Tsuyoshi managed to bring her to the hospital. Karina survived, but was left confined to a wheelchair. Later, when he visited her, she asked if he was okay. He said yes and asked if her legs still hurt. The nurse explained that the pain was caused by nerve damage and that she was receiving an injection because she could no longer stand. Using his system panel and the divine eye ability, Tsuyoshi discovered that both of her legs had been crushed by debris from a collapsing building. 98% of her nerve cells were necrotized, leaving no possibility of natural recovery. The condition caused intermittent pain, and movement was impossible without support. He thought that even a 1% chance of walking again made things unbearably difficult. Karina deserved a normal life. She should be able to go to school, take trips, meet friends, travel, and smile like any other girl. Now, she was all he had left. Tsuyoshi couldn't bear to see her suffer, and even with the smallest chance, he wanted to ensure she could walk again. As long as there was even 1% of hope, he wouldn't give up. If he could become a hero, perhaps he could gain the knowledge needed to find a way to help her. With that in mind, he went to the place where the bravery test, known as the awakening test, would take place. Finally, the moment came for the protagonist to be tested again. The examiner remembered that Tsuyoshi had already failed once and assumed the result would be the same, since the device measured everything scientifically from all angles. Even so, Tsuyoshi entered the machine's structure and touched it, determined to take it seriously. He activated his supreme physique, and his strength was so immense that it caused an earthquake. The reading showed a value of 5,400, far surpassing the previous combat power record for a level 3 hero, which had been only 930. The result was completely off the charts. The protagonist was astonished to discover how resilient his body had become. He also thought he should better understand the Divine Hammer's powers. When he picked it up, the system indicated that, due to his current limitations, he could only hold it for 1 second. Even so, he believed that would be enough time for the machine to calculate his combat power. As soon as he touched the machine with the hammer, it activated again. He unleashed everything he had, and an earthquake struck the city. The machine overloaded, and a blackout spread through the facility. The examiner announced that the test was suspended and ordered everyone to evacuate. The protagonist, now unrecognizable, frightened the evaluator. Leaving the area, Tsuyoshi realized he had underestimated his strength, and that all his energy had been drained in just 1 second. So he decided not to use the divine hammer again until his body became strong enough. Even so, he was happy. He was now officially a hero. Afterward, he went to the training fields, where a man named Gaia introduced himself as the one responsible for training the heroes. Checking through the system, Tsuyoshi noticed Gaia was weaker than him. Gaia informed the rookies that the next day they would enter a rank D dungeon. With some real experience, they would discover which profession best suited each of them. Many were surprised, as they expected basic training, but Gaia made it clear there was no time for that. They needed to sharpen their skills through real combat. Later, Tsuyoshi returned home, and since the cooldown period had ended, he decided to go back to the other world. It was nighttime, and the scenery looked just as it had before. His clothes also reverted to how they were the first time, and everything he had left there had returned to its original state. The beast woman appeared and asked if everything was all right. He said it was nothing serious and seemed eager to level up. He mentioned that there were level 3 goblins nearby and asked for her opinion. The woman warned him to be careful because there were many enemies. They went together and she decided to strike first. Tsuyoshi got excited and clapped as he admired the movements of the level 72 warrior. He asked to learn the technique she had used. The cat-eared girl explained that the instant strike was a skill reserved for advanced warriors and that he wasn't ready for it yet. The boy replied that, in that case, he would become a warrior too, since she was by his side. When he changed his class, she blushed. More goblins appeared, and Tsuyoshi decided to face them alone. Borrowing the beast woman's daggers, he defeated several enemies at once. She was impressed, since it would have been difficult for someone of his level to defeat a group of 6 goblins. Tsuyoshi found it surprisingly easy and went after the remaining ones. Among the items left by a goblin, he found a wooden staff. Though simple, he thought it could be useful. The woman warned him that they needed to find better equipment because what he had offered almost no defense. The protagonist agreed with the beast woman, and the two continued advancing together. Along the way, he decided to open his system panel. He noticed that there were 2 available slots, one of which was occupied by the divine hammer. He also realized that as he trained and leveled up, the storage spaces within the divine consciousness inventory increased. He began to wonder how he could expand those spaces even further. Suddenly, the beast woman shouted for him to be careful. Several level 4 goblins appeared all at once. The warrior charged into battle without hesitation, but Tsuyoshi asked her not to interfere. He wanted to earn more experience points on his own. During the fight, his wooden staff broke, and he grew frustrated with the weapon's fragility. Even so, he kept fighting every goblin that appeared. When he defeated the last enemy, he realized he was becoming stronger than he had imagined. He remembered when he was just a janitor, overhearing heroes complain that level 3 and level 4 kobolds barely gave 10 experience points. Back then, the guild took almost everything, and the heroes hated it. But now, in this new world, he could keep all the experience for himself. Moreover, the monsters seemed to give far more points. He thought that was incredible. Afterward, they went to the dungeon boss. The beast woman warned that the goblin there was possessed by darkness. Tsuyoshi was shocked. He remembered that his own world also had darkness hidden deep in its caves. He wondered if it could be the same entity. The dark goblin looked strikingly similar to the one that had killed his parents. The warrior explained that enemies consumed by darkness were extremely dangerous. Even though the boss was only level 6, its power was multiplied by the darkness. This force was shrouded in mystery, and that's why she didn't want the protagonist to face it alone. Even so, Tsuyoshi insisted. He wanted revenge at any cost, even if he didn't know whether the two worlds were connected. He charged at the boss, but was struck hard. The blow was so strong that his clothes tore and his body trembled. He felt weak, but refused to lose to those who had destroyed his family. Then he activated his supreme physical condition. Even without a weapon, he believed his own body was enough. He struck the boss with a powerful punch. The impact was so intense that the enemy was obliterated. With that, the protagonist reached level 4. He told the warrior that he intended to eliminate all beings of darkness. However, his arm had been severely injured during the attack. If it wasn't treated quickly, he might lose it. Suddenly, he collapsed. The beast woman laid his head on her lap and applied a special medicine, telling him not to worry. An hour later, the protagonist woke up feeling much better. Some small creatures were nearby while he rested. The girl was relieved that the medicine had worked. Tsuyoshi felt energized and stronger than before. Soon after, they received their dungeon rewards. Among the prizes was a dark treasure chest. The protagonist was surprised to find it. When he opened it, he obtained a set of equipment belonging to the dark goblin. However, he realized he only had one free slot left in his inventory. Even so, he decided to store the armor. They exited the dungeon, and outside, the warrior crafted a black shirt for him. He put it on and thought it looked great. Then he figured that now, with his level up and decent equipment, it was time to return. Tsuyoshi went back to his apartment and collapsed onto his bed. He thought that switching worlds wasn't as simple as it seemed. To return, he had to wait for the beast woman to fall asleep, and only then was he transported back. But this time, he had gained many good things. The next day, he decided to test the Dark Goblin set and noticed that the outfit even had special abilities. After putting the set back into his inventory, his phone rang. When he answered, he heard the head nurse's voice saying that some scary people were at the hospital trying to take Karina, claiming she owed them money. That caught Tsuyoshi off guard. Furious, he rushed straight to the hospital. When he arrived, he found a few men harassing Karina. One of them explained that her brother had borrowed money and failed to pay it back on time, so they were enforcing the contract. Their plan was to sell the girl on the black market. Karina couldn't believe it. She was certain her brother would never sign such a thing. The man said that her brother had been making weekly payments, but the amount didn't even cover the interest. Suddenly, Tsuyoshi appeared, but not like an ordinary man. He kicked the door open with force, hatred burning in his eyes, and declared that they were all miserable scum who should prepare themselves. The loan shark mocked him, saying he didn't even need a defective sister. Tsuyoshi punched him so hard that the man's glasses shattered and his teeth flew out. The thug's guard tried to attack, but Tsuyoshi broke his arm instantly. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, the man with the glasses drew his gun and fired, but Tsuyoshi caught the bullet in his hand as if it were nothing. Everyone in the room was stunned. The protagonist said that he was now a hero. The three criminals began to tremble. The nurse called security, reporting that loan sharks had threatened a patient and her brother. But before the guards could act, the thugs were already trying to flee. One of them stammered that it was fine if the boy didn't pay and apologized for the trouble. Even while saying that, he was already thinking of telling the gang's boss that Tsuyoshi had become a hero. That could ruin their plans. The boss was a level 100 warrior, surely strong enough to defeat him. Tsuyoshi apologized to his sister and explained that if they didn't pay soon, the blue snakes would come back. He spent several days trying to figure out how to settle the debt. But now that he was a hero, she didn't need to worry. Karina was shocked to learn that her brother had become a hero. He showed her his badge, but explained that he was still an apprentice and would be officially recognized once he entered the cave that same day. He had borrowed $60,000 from the Blue Snake Gang to pay for Karina's treatment. Even as an official hero, the salary he would earn wasn't enough, so his only option was to sell all his hero equipment. Later, he went to the cave as scheduled with instructor Gaia. The test to become a hero required following several rules, the main one being that all equipment found inside the cave had to be surrendered afterward. Gaia told the recruits not to worry about the exam. He was a level 9 warrior, and as long as they followed his instructions, they'd pass without issue, maybe even become heroes thanks to his help. But each participant had to pay 20,000 yen. That discouraged everyone. Tsuyoshi found it strange that they had to pay an extra fee even though they were required to hand over everything they found during the test. The others taking the exam told Tsuyoshi to stay quiet, since Gaia had backing from the guild. Gaia made it clear that those were his rules, and anyone without the money could attempt the test solo. The protagonist decided to challenge that, thinking that registering for the solo test might actually be a good idea. He signed up, and the official in charge asked if he was crazy, explaining that no one had ever even come close to passing that trial. It was a Class C cave used in the Hero Union exam, impossible for a rookie, he said. The protagonist simply told him to start the test. Upon entering the cave's portal, Tsuyoshi was surprised by the scenery. A monster tried to attack him, but his weapon broke upon impact with its head. He wasn't worried. He knew that kind of power couldn't hurt him. He destroyed the goblin effortlessly. The problem was that the enemy's experience in the real world wasn't even half of what he gained in the other world. When several goblins came at once, he equipped his special set and defeated them all at once. Outside, the examiner began to worry. Almost an hour had passed, and Tsuyoshi was still inside. He thought he'd soon have to declare the boy dead. Suddenly, the system updated. The results showed he had passed. Tsuyoshi emerged from the portal covered in injuries and simply asked if there was a place he could take a shower. Meanwhile, Gaia was with the other candidates when a message came through his earpiece. He was shocked to learn that the protagonist had passed the solo test. He refused to accept the result and stormed off to confront him, asking if Tsuyoshi had used high-level items or something, since no rookie had ever managed such a feat. The protagonist said that just because no one had passed before didn't mean it was impossible. Maybe it was the pressure of almost having to pay 20,000 after the test. Gaia became furious. He asked if it was some kind of joke and raised his fist to punch the young man, but Tsuyoshi caught his fist as if it were nothing. That shocked Gaia, since that power and speed didn't seem like those of someone at level 4. He drew a dagger and asked what Tsuyoshi was hiding, but before he could attack, the dagger broke against Tsuyoshi's arm. Gaia was even more surprised and asked if he was using some kind of special equipment. At that moment, Tsuyoshi began to worry. He realized he had shown too much and thought it would be a problem if they discovered his secret. He tried to pretend that the dagger had already been damaged and said it could have been dangerous. Soon after, the person in charge of the results arrived and apologized. He said Tsuyoshi was now officially a hero and handed him his identification. After that, Tsuyoshi returned to his apartment, thinking he had shaken Gaia off. But he was wrong. Gaia was standing at the door with henchmen from the Crazy Wolf gang. They broke in and ordered everyone inside to be restrained, planning to split the treasures afterward. However, Tsuyoshi was already prepared and burst through the door. Even facing level 10 mages with a combat power of 3,500, he believed he could win. The bald mage cast a flame spell. Tsuyoshi noticed that the shirt made by the girl resisted physical attacks, but couldn't withstand magic. It was very different from fighting goblins. He started to run when he realized he'd lose against magical attacks. He jumped out the window, activating leg reinforcement, but a level 12 gang member was already waiting outside and attacked him with full force. It was an ambush. He took a direct hit that knocked him to the ground, but thanks to the defense of the Black Goblin set, he managed to reduce the damage. He got up using the set's support and prepared to counterattack. Before he could move, one of the mages activated an ability that froze his movements for 1.5 seconds. When the enemies prepared to attack again, the cooldown of the Ring of the Unlimited had just finished. He managed to use it in time and barely escaped, being transported to another world. After that, he realized he needed to level up and learn new skills. He had gotten too excited about his good equipment, but understood that without real ability, he'd eventually lose everything. In the other world, it was already night, and the cat-eared girl was asleep. He waited until dawn. When she woke up, he asked if she could sew another piece of clothing for him. They went together to a small combat academy belonging to the Beastman tribe. An orc said that although the Beast King had shown interest in the protagonist, there were conditions for enrollment. First, he needed to reach level 6 and then pass the exam. It was too soon since he was still level 4. The cat-eared girl didn't know that because she had spent a long time training in a cave. She apologized and suggested he level up in a lower-level cave nearby. The orc thought Tsuyoshi was nothing but filth and would never be acknowledged. If it weren't for the king, he'd already be in pieces. He began saying bad things about the girl. That angered the protagonist, who went up to the orc and demanded that he apologize. The orc explained that the girl was a hybrid between human and beast. Tsuyoshi was surprised. He discovered that hybrids didn't have names. That's why his divine eye skill hadn't shown anything. He also learned that hybrids were despised everywhere, seen as lowly, without status or the right to resist, which was why they had no names. Suddenly, several goblins with bows appeared. The orc told him not to be deceived just because the Beast King had taken interest in him. He said that if Tsuyoshi resorted to violence, he'd respond in kind, and that he would only apologize to the girl if Tsuyoshi passed the exam. Tsuyoshi then decided to give her a name. He told the orc her name was Sakura, and that he should remember it. She was very surprised by that name. After that, they set off together for another cave in search of leveling up. She had bought daggers for him, and he was pleased with that. The cave was full of level 5 fox beastmen. They moved quickly and were smarter than common beastmen. The protagonist protagonist took the opportunity to test his daggers. The enemy's weapons broke easily upon hitting his body. He defeated them all effortlessly, but still felt uneasy. He was outnumbered, and the bald mage was level 12. He told Sakura they would reach level 6 in one go. He was determined to make those beastmen bow before him. Soon he reached the fox beastman's leader, who was level 7. The protagonist liked the sword he was using, and thought it would be perfect for his arsenal. Noticing his interest, Sakura explained that bosses could drop items, but the chance depended on rarity. She said the best thing to do was to keep fighting until he got it, like grinding in a game. With that explanation, everything became clearer to him. He saw the name of the sword, Cold Blacklight Sword. The drop rate was 6%, which he thought was very low. He discovered there was an exchange system and realized the only thing he currently had was a high probability roll. Seeing an advantage, he decided to make the trade. He told Sakura he would get that sword because it would make him stronger, even if it only suited his current level. The boss sensed his presence, and Sakura explained that if he set the sword on fire, his attacks would be more effective since the boss feared fire. So he approached the enemy, who wielded a sword with 4 ice attributes, turning the fight into a direct clash between fire and ice. He managed to strike the boss's arm and, by chance, hit the enemy's weak spot, changing its status to cowardice and doubling the damage of his attacks. The protagonist found that information interesting and decided to exploit the opening. Sakura then suggested he aim for the boss's neck. With that, he used his skill called Heaven Shaker and defeated the enemy, gaining a large amount of experience and acquiring the sword he had wanted so badly. Even with his exceptional physique, he knew he could still get hurt if he was careless. With the new sword in hand, he felt capable of delivering much stronger attacks. He had never held such a powerful weapon before. He thought that challenging the 3 members of the Crazy Wolf Gang with that sword would make for an interesting fight. So, he wanted to find a place where he could level up quickly. He was eager to reach level 6 as soon as possible. Sakura explained that he could use a reset scroll, which reduced monster respawn time in caves or dungeons. She said the effect was weaker in special or high-level areas, but since the Fox Beastmen cave was low-level, monsters would reappear quickly. She had a few scrolls and believed they'd be enough for him to reach his goal. They left the cave, and she handed him the item. The young man was impatient and didn't want to wait any longer. He attacked the creatures again and soon reached his second battle against the boss, now at level 5. After defeating the enemy, he finally reached level 6 and could now take the test. He returned to the entrance of the Combat Academy, and the orcs were surprised to see he had leveled up in just one day. The protagonist was wearing the Fox Beastman set he had obtained by defeating them repeatedly in that cave. He asked the orc to call the examiner because he didn't want to wait until the next day. When the examiner arrived, he was irritated because he had been interrupted while getting ready to sleep. Upon seeing the protagonist, he made it clear he didn't want to waste time. Still, Tsuyoshi said he met the requirements for the test and wanted to begin immediately. The examiner warned him that reaching level 6 didn't guarantee approval. Meanwhile, the orc came closer and whispered what had happened into the examiner's ear, leaving him completely shocked to learn that the protagonist had gone from level 4 to 6 in less than a day. The Combat Academy's priest commander then authorized the start of the test, explaining that if he passed, he would gain access to the Beastmen Academy's skill vault. The test was simple. He had to look at a stone slab on the platform, and if he could break it with a single punch, he'd pass. The examiner gave a demonstration to show how the test worked. Then, the protagonist focused 50% of his energy into his arm and struck the stone with full force. The rock was completely shattered, leaving the 2 observers unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The instructor stated that the protagonist hadn't passed the previous test because, at the moment he destroyed the stone, he had been facing away and didn't see the impact. He believed the crack might have been caused by his own earlier demonstration, so he decided to record it as a failure, even claiming that the protagonist had borrowed his power. Tsuyoshi didn't understand and asked what the next test would be. The examiner explained that the second test would be iron bar bending, one of the trials meant to measure raw strength, where the participant had to bend an extremely tough bar using only physical power. The protagonist completed the task with ease, but was once again failed, under the excuse that the bar used wasn't the proper one for testing. Because of that, they decided to use the most primitive method possible, arm wrestling. If he could resist for 10 seconds against their strongest warrior, he would pass. However, not only did he endure the full 10 seconds, but he also easily defeated their strongest fighter. After completing the 3 tests, he thought he had finally passed. The goblins hated the outcome, but accepted their defeat. As promised, the orc bowed and apologized to Sakura, who felt embarrassed and told them not to worry about it. The protagonist then tried to correct her attitude, saying she didn't need to be so modest. The apology was fair and she should accept it. After that, they went together to the entrance of the skill vault. There, the rules allowed taking only 1 skill at a time, which he thought was absurd. The place was strictly regulated. Once inside, the user had only 3 minutes to choose a skill. If that time was exceeded, they would be automatically expelled. The vault was guarded by high-level mages and sorcerers, protected by seals and barriers everywhere. As soon as he entered, the 3-minute countdown began. Before him stood a vast shelf filled with scrolls and skills. It was the first time the hybrid girl had ever entered such a place. The protagonist thought about using absolute duplication, but had trouble finding anything truly worthwhile. Then he found a shield impact skill, but the name sounded too generic, and it discouraged him. He didn't use shields in battle anyway. Sakura was also looking and showed her master a skill called Wind Step, designed for archers. It didn't suit him, so he continued searching and came across a counterattack skill that seemed useful and compatible with his style. Even so, he wanted to keep looking, but soon realized only 1 minute remained. He was wasting time and needed to act fast. He decided to break all the seals at once using his strength. He activated the hammer of the Divine King for a second. The examiner could never have imagined that a human possessed such power. All the seals shattered almost instantly. The skill was deactivated immediately afterwards since its duration was limited. Only 50 seconds remained. Instantly, Tsuyoshi began being bombarded by information from the scrolls. Sakura grew worried because his brain was being overloaded with data all at once. He felt as if his head were splitting apart, but he didn't care. He just wanted to find the skill that suited him best. Time was still running, and he knew that wasn't good. He asked Sakura to grab a specific scroll from the lowest shelf in the deepest aisle, the third one from the top. At that moment, only 20 seconds were left. Even so, she managed to reach the fragmented scroll. Luckily, that kind of scroll didn't require collecting other fragments to be used. The time expired, and they had to leave. He picked the girl up in his arms and dashed out of the vault, escaping right at the last possible moment. The examiner couldn't understand how the protagonist had obtained a fragmented scroll. Tsuyoshi had chosen the Thunder Chain Fall, a powerful combat magic that summoned an intense electrical current capable of inflicting lightning-type damage. This energy spread among 3 different targets and was a skill suitable for both warriors and mages. The examiner explained that, according to records left by his predecessor, in the past 1,000 years, almost no one had ever tried to learn a fragmented skill. The reason was that this magic was divided into 6 volumes, and only 3 had ever been found. Finding the remaining ones without any clues in such a vast world seemed impossible for that orc. Moreover, he said that many beastmen who had tried to master that ability in the past had died horribly. As they leveled up, their bodies couldn't handle the pressure and completely exploded. The priest then revealed that 1,000 years ago, the king of the beastmen, known as the Divine King, had been the wielder of the sacred hammer, and this was the only skill the ancient kingdom had left as its legacy. Even so, the protagonist paid little attention to the priest's warnings. He believed that skill suited him perfectly, even if the king himself had abandoned it. Without hesitation, he decided to leave the place. Before Sakura could also leave the vault, the priest recognized her as the hybrid, who was supposed to have been executed. He wanted to understand how she had managed to deceive the beastmen for so long. He believed the humans still didn't know who she really was and asked if she intended to sacrifice him. But she coldly replied that it was none of his business. Later at the inn, the protagonist had to use a healing potion that Sakura had brought, as he was still recovering from using the hammer of the Divine King. During their rest, he noticed that Sakura was acting strangely. She tried to explain by saying she was just tired. Tsuyoshi, still suspicious, mentioned that she was next on the execution list. Sakura preferred not to continue the conversation and diverted the topic by asking if he had studied the rest of the scroll. The protagonist had already memorized everything. Despite the strange words spoken by that old beastman, he felt the skill truly matched his fighting style. The Thunder Chain Fall required an extremely resilient body, making him the ideal candidate. After all, he still had the strongest body of anyone he knew. Even with that achievement, he decided he still had something to settle in his original world. Now that he had learned the ability, he believed he knew how to deal with the 3 enemies waiting for him. He returned to the other world at level 6, wearing the Fox Beastman's set. Without wasting time, he unleashed the Thunder Chain Fall on the 3 enemies. The skill was still only half as effective, but it caused devastating impact nonetheless. All 3 were paralyzed. Then he killed Gaia, the first member of the Crazy Wolf Gang. The second, a bald man, became enraged and threw several bombs toward Tsuyoshi. The explosion was massive, and he believed he had won. But despite the impact, Tsuyoshi emerged unscathed, as if nothing had happened. After defeating everyone, the protagonist found a strange bag and grew curious. He discovered it was a dimensional ring, a rare object that allowed the user to access their own storage space, the size of which depended on the user's level. Tsuyoshi was thrilled with the find. An ordinary hero could never obtain something like that, both because of its high cost and its rarity on the market. He tested the ring immediately and confirmed it worked perfectly. When the hero security forces arrived, he took advantage advantage of the moment and fled as quickly as he could. Shortly after, he received a phone call. It was his former schoolteacher, Lily. The teacher called Tsuyoshi, saying he had been absent for too long. Even though winter break had ended a week ago, she was still worried about him. She understood that he might have wanted to leave school because of his sister's situation, and even thought his decision might be tied to the family's financial troubles. Still, she didn't want to see another student giving up on his studies. Tsuyoshi thanked her for her concern and admitted that the problem wasn't just money, he had also suffered a lot at school. The teacher tried to encourage him, reminding him that he was a strong boy and shouldn't run away from his problems. She told him he should keep studying, doing his best for his sister and for himself. With those words, Tsuyoshi was convinced by his sensei and decided he would return to school the next day. Meanwhile, the Crazy Wolf gang leader began finding the whole situation very suspicious. 3 of his members had been killed by an unknown hero and all their items had been looted, including a dimensional ring they trusted deeply. The protagonist didn't know that the ring carried a tracking spell, allowing the boss to know exactly where the item, and therefore Tsuyoshi, was. Consumed by revenge, he refused to accept that his gang had been robbed and ordered all his men to recover what they had lost. The next morning, Tsuyoshi walked with his sister Karina, who moved with the help of orthopedic supports. He asked if she was feeling all right, and she said yes, as long as she walked slowly. When she learned he would return to school, she insisted on going too. Tsuyoshi had bought her equipment with the money he had taken from the 3 gang members, but now he was broke again and couldn't sell the dimensional ring. It might be useful later in his work as a hero. Arriving at school, Karina went to her classroom. 2 girls were watching her from a distance, and one of them, with black hair, began planning to intimidate her purely out of malice. Meanwhile, Tsuyoshi received a scolding from the principal for abandoning his studies. Teacher Lily tried to defend him, explaining that he had his reasons but had now returned. She was the one covering the tuition for him and his sister, which made Tsuyoshi determined to repay the money one day. Even after returning, reality hadn't changed much. Classmates who had previously mistreated him continued their behavior. One of them threw a paper ball at him, but Tsuyoshi easily caught it, surprising both of them. Then he said he would see Rayleigh in the bathroom after class. Rayleigh laughed, thinking the protagonist was just excited to be back. When the bell rang, they went to the bathroom together. There, Rayleigh demanded his usual protection fee, trying to extort Tsuyoshi. Tsuyoshi made it clear he wouldn't give him a single coin. Rayleigh's henchmen got angry and tried to attack him, but unlike before, he was now different. The old Tsuyoshi would never have had the courage to defend himself, but this time he beat the 2 attackers. Rayleigh was shocked, remembering how weak the protagonist had been in the past. Now he seemed like a completely different person. Suddenly, another student entered the bathroom, warning that the gang leader was nearby and that they should flee immediately. Tsuyoshi realized that if he hadn't controlled his power, he could have killed everyone easily. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the school, a girl named Haru was being kind to Karina and had just given her phone number. However, the black-haired girl suddenly appeared and slapped Haru on the head. Haru tried to explain to the black-haired girl, Mina, that Karina's body was no longer the same and wanted to avoid any trouble with Tsuyoshi's sister, but Mina didn't care what she had heard. She found it strange that Karina had been absent from school for so long and hadn't had any slaves around during that time, which irritated her. She wanted to know how Karina would make it up to her. Karina trembled, unsure of what to do, but Mina made it clear that she should pay money and asked if her orthopedic devices could be sold. Karina replied no, explaining that her brother had gone to great lengths to buy them, so they were very important. Suddenly, Mina slapped Karina's face, but the teacher arrived shortly after, causing Mina to stop harming the girl while making it clear that the conversation was not over. Karina was in shock, thinking she needed her brother, but also wanting to ensure he wouldn't encounter Mina and the others. She decided to take a detour through the back gate. After class, teacher Lily went to talk to Tsuyoshi, asking if she could help him with anything from the lesson. For him, everything was fine, and he thanked her. Shortly after the teacher turned her back, one of Rayleigh's henchmen approached, apologized, and asked if they could talk elsewhere. Tsuyoshi followed him, but it was an ambush. They wanted to hurt him anyway. Tsuyoshi's supreme physical form was already activated at 30% and concentrated in his arms. He suspected something was being planned, but didn't imagine they would stoop so low. He then beat all of them, thinking they needed to learn their lesson, since they were nothing more than human failures. Finally, he slapped Rayleigh across the face, knocking him out, knowing a hero couldn't kill a civilian. Meanwhile, Karina walked down the corridor toward the back gate, panting and just wanting to get out before Mina arrived. But there was an obstacle. She had to go down the stairs, so she decided to go slowly. Suddenly, Mina appeared and pushed Karina down the stairs. Karina fell, was seriously injured, and her nose began to bleed. Mina found it amusing and demanded that she remove the devices from her legs. Outside, Tsuyoshi waited at the front gate, finding it strange that Karina hadn't arrived yet. He had gone to her classroom and learned that she had already left. Then, a girl politely asked if he was Karina's brother and whether he knew where she was. She awkwardly replied that she saw Karina passing through the back gate and suggested he go there. Tsuyoshi hurried to check and wanted to understand why she had taken that route. It was odd for her to go down the stairs to the back gate. His eyes widened at the scene. His sister was lying on the ground, badly injured, but seeing him cheered her up considerably. He used his divine eye ability to analyze her injuries. Karina tried to explain, claiming it was her fault for falling down the stairs, but the ability revealed that she had taken punches, slaps, and kicks. Even so, she insisted on the excuse, not wanting to worry him. Her cane had also been broken. She wanted to prevent him from worrying, but he picked her up and they began walking together. After some time talking, he asked her to wait because he had forgotten something at the school. Meanwhile, Mina was talking to a blonde boy named Billy, her boyfriend, saying she was angry that she hadn't managed to remove Karina's leg devices. Billy responded that he would do it himself the next day. Tsuyoshi overheard the entire conversation between the three and heard them saying horrible things about him and his sister. Without hesitation, he decided to enter the room, surprising everyone. Billy asked who he thought he was to barge in like that. Tsuyoshi declared that he now knew exactly how his sister had been hurt in that way. Mina thought he was there to take revenge for his sister, but Billy made it clear it wouldn't be so easy, saying Mina was only teasing Karina. The protagonist said he couldn't forgive anyone who had simply pushed a disabled girl down the stairs. Billy tried to punch him, but Tsuyoshi easily grabbed his finger and hurt him. Billy began screaming, calling the protagonist cursed. Enraged, Tsuyoshi said he wouldn't let any of the three escape and closed the classroom door. Mina didn't quite understand his intentions. Her friend Vivian spoke threateningly, telling him to stay quiet because they weren't people he'd want to anger. He didn't care that she was a girl and slapped her hard across the face. Mina was surprised to see Vivian hit like that. Billy asked if he really had the courage to do that to a woman, but the protagonist said he didn't see any of them as women, only as demons. When Billy tried to continue intimidating him and began talking about his father, Tsuyoshi punched him so hard he lost teeth, saying he would deal with him later and that for now he should shut up. Then he grabbed Mina by the neck and told her to listen carefully. As Karina's brother, he said he would never forgive her for what she had done to his sister and ordered her to stay away, warning that next time he would end her life. Then he released her neck, leaving her panting on the floor. Immediately afterward, he grabbed a ruler and struck Billy in the face with it. Billy, angry, said Tsuyoshi would regret it, claiming he was the son of the Blue Cobra gang leader and that his father was a level 10 hero. At that moment, the protagonist remembered that he owed money to Billy's father's gang. He found it amusing, thinking the world was too small and fate had placed people he hated right in front of him. He then used his ability to electrocute Billy, who still crawled to his girlfriend, saying he would tell everything to his father. Meanwhile, Karina waited outside, worried about her brother's delay. Suddenly, he returned and apologized for making her wait. He said they could go home now. After taking his sister home, Tsuyoshi returned to the other world, now flying on the back of a dragon. They had arrived in the north. Sakura explained that upon reaching the city, they could participate in an official mission and that he should register with the Adventurers Guild. There, he could also find a blacksmith and a tool shop. They had arrived in the city called the Northern Beastmen City. Tsuyoshi discovered that there were many different beastmen tribes there. Amid the bustling activity, he encountered humans. Sakura wanted to know if these humans were like those from his world, because in a large city like this, with many tribes and an active adventurers guild, there was a rule requiring adventurers to avoid life-threatening fights outside the arena. Curious, Tsuyoshi wanted to talk to the humans and tried to approach them, but the humans in that place were different and didn't want him to get too close. A hybrid girl appeared and approached Tsuyoshi, saying there had been a misunderstanding, but the humans backed away when they saw her. She explained that things worked differently there and that it was better to act cautiously. Tsuyoshi began to understand the situation. In the end, he realized that no one liked hybrids, which explained the hostile looks around him. Afterward, Tsuyoshi and Sakura went to the guild to register. There, a woman with dog-like features noticed that he was a human, accompanied by a hybrid, and found it interesting, asking them to fill out their information. This data would be shared across the entire Adventurers Guild network, allowing them to take missions from other branches in the future. They needed to go through this process to receive the official adventurer identification, which was an emblem. The lowest rank emblem was made of iron. The higher the rank, the better the merits, and the greater the rewards. Rankings went from iron to bronze, then silver, and finally gold, but only a few adventurers with the gold emblem still roamed the guilds, as they accepted missions only from nobles or wealthy people. The guild hostess also explained that it was possible to hide one's level and even the emblem itself. The protagonists tried to do this and succeeded on the first attempt, which surprised the woman, as it was rare for someone to hide this information immediately. Meanwhile, two huge orcs rudely entered the hall. They had just completed a mission and already wanted to take another. The hostess took the opportunity to mention that there were quite a few creatures called carnivorous darkness, causing problems in some farmers' fields. She said a group of 3 people had already accepted that mission but were severely injured, and one of them was still missing. Tsuyoshi decided to accept this mission, but the orcs did not like that. One of them drew a dagger as if to attack, even though they knew it was forbidden inside the guild. The other tried to stop him, saying it would be madness. The hostess warned the protagonist that, given his current level, the request could be rejected by the client. Then the orcs began mocking the hybrid girl, but to put an end to it, Sakura showed her gold emblem. The hostess was surprised, saying she should have shown it from the start, and stated that she would entrust the request to her, believing the farmer would be happy with that. The orcs ended up leaving, as their prejudice against hybrids was overcome the moment Sakura revealed her badge. Now, the protagonist had an official mission that would help him level up. After leaving the guild, Tsuyoshi looked for the farm where the carnivorous darkness creatures were causing trouble. He commented that he had no idea Sakura had a gold badge. She explained that she had joined the guild at a young age, completing several missions with different groups, and only realized she had reached the necessary level after a long time. Then she exchanged her emblem for the gold one, as recognition of her performance. In the end, they arrived at the farm. The creatures known as carnivorous darkness there were level 10, and seeing that number, Tsuyoshi wanted to know how many people were inside. The hybrid girl explained that, being darkness creatures, they had the ability to corrupt all living beings, making them furious and stronger. Low-level beings would even lose their intelligence, becoming similar to those dark goblins. At that moment, it was also revealed that these creatures had previously been slimes. Tsuyoshi quickly concluded that his Chain Thunderfall ability was the best option to face that group. He began preparing the spell to cast it. However, Sakura warned him that fighting alone like that was no longer a good idea. The battle could cost him his life, as this area was completely different from the initial ones. The request was dangerous, and it was not uncommon for adventurers to die at any moment. The protagonist began to reflect and grew worried, as he did not know how strong the king was. He didn't know what level would be enough to prove his strength and abilities after a year. Sakura believed it would be impossible for him to pass the king's test starting at his current level. For her, simply surviving until the next year would already be an achievement. At the very least, he should avoid being killed by the divine judgment of the beastmen. The level system also imposed limits. The maximum level allowed for adventurers was 100, while the current beastman king was level 92. That was the problem. There was a point where Tsuyoshi could no longer grow easily. The higher his level, the harder it would be to advance. Even so, Tsuyoshi did not see this as an obstacle. He did not consider himself an ordinary adventurer. He had lifted the Divine King's hammer and believed he could reach level 50 in a year. Determined, he set a goal to reach level 12 by the end of the week. He planned to attack one of the dark carnivorous creatures and use the system to its maximum capacity from now on. With his divine eye, he identified that the creature's weak point was the slime core inside their bodies. He then began searching for exactly where the core was, but it was not easy. The creature could corrupt the body part it touched, making combat even more dangerous. After a few attempts, he discovered that the core was under the monster's tongue. Using the Chain Thunderfall ability, he managed to destroy the creature. 30 minutes after defeating the first monster, almost all of the carnivorous creatures had been eliminated. Tsuyoshi had a little help from the thunder oil that Sakura had prepared. This oil allowed the thunder attribute to be imbued in weapons. Only 4 creatures remained, and the protagonist thought he should stock more oil-based items next time, as even the oil used to cause fire in the last battle had been useful. However, he realized he had forgotten to obtain money, which was something he would also have to seek during his journey to become the Beastman King. Soon after, he decided to enter the food warehouse to find the boss and complete the mission. However, before he could enter, the farm owner appeared and asked what he was doing there without permission. He did not like seeing a hybrid girl on his property at all. Next to him were several adventurers who did not believe that a hybrid and a human had destroyed all of that. These adventurers were there because of something called cardiolus. Tsuyoshi had no idea what it was and thought it was all a misunderstanding, as they had received the request from the guild itself. Sakura also did not know about the existence of this item, which the boss was supposedly going to drop. Since neither of them knew what it was, the group of adventurers wanted them to stay out, as they were interested in the item. Tsuyoshi was very confused by the whole discussion about the cardiolus, but Sakura made it clear that he should not give up the mission, as the cardiolus was extremely valuable. It was a rare item that dropped from a dark boss. once purified, it could be used to connect with a dark area. In these areas, drops in experience rates were 10 times higher than in any normal area. Knowing that the Cardiolus was a rare and valuable item made it clear that it was excellent for an adventurer who wanted to level up. Therefore, the protagonist decided he would obtain this item at any cost. Suddenly, tension between the groups began to rise, and they almost started a battle at that moment. However, the property owner did not want that to happen there and suggested resolving the misunderstanding in a better way. Since one group had received the request from the guild and the other had been summoned by the farm owner himself, the man proposed that everyone show their worth through their own abilities. The only remaining enemy was the boss, and whoever defeated it would be entitled to the reward. Even so, the adventurers did not want Tsuyoshi and Sakura to go first. Tsuyoshi tried to convince them, saying he was only level 6. He stated that if he lost, he would give up the request and the reward. He pretended to be weak so that the adventurers would believe he would lose and let him fight first. The other adventurers began laughing at the situation, thinking that the boy, who seemed like a simple janitor, was crazy to want to face a boss at that level. They let him go, thinking it would be fun to see him be miserably defeated. Tsuyoshi then entered the warehouse, where the boss awaited him. The creature's aura was heavy and terrifying. The carnivorous darkness boss was level 14. Even so, Tsuyoshi believed that just 1 second would be enough to kill it, and for that, he intended to use the Divine King's hammer. He knew the creature was weak against thunder, but he also understood that if he did not defeat it with that single strike, he would be in danger, as he would become weaker immediately afterward. He struck the creature with full force. Sakura noticed that he had used 100% of his current power and immediately grew concerned, knowing he would be exhausted afterward. Desperate, she ran to check on him. There he was, lying on the ground, his thin, weakened body resembling the debilitated form of the hero All Might from a famous manga. Even so, he held a stone in his hand and asked if that was the Cardiolus everyone had been talking about earlier. After that, they headed to the Adventurers Guild. The hostess handed the reward to Sakura, but the hybrid insisted that it was her master who had defeated the boss. The hostess thought it must be a joke, as Tsuyoshi was so weak he could barely stand. However, at that moment, the state of weakness ended and he returned to normal. With his body restored, he wanted to know if Sakura had learned anything about the Cardiolus. The hostess explained that they should seek out the shamans, as the Cardiolus needed to be purified and infused with magic by one of them to be usable. She mentioned that the Shaman's Guild was east of the city and offered to write a letter of recommendation for both of them. She also warned that there would be a shaman exam in the coming days, and because of that, they might be rejected. Tsuyoshi was surprised to learn that shamans had rankings. They were divided into 6 different classes and were considered more noble than ordinary adventurers. Some could even influence an adventurer's level cap. In the adventurer world, a high-level shaman was more feared than 10 powerful warriors. A shaman's potions could change the outcome of a battle. After hearing all this, Tsuyoshi became even more fascinated with this new path. The hostess then handed them the recommendation card, allowing them to proceed with the purification of the Cardiolus. They then went to the Shaman's Guild, where many mages were gathered for the exam. Tsuyoshi and Sakura asked if they could request the purification of the Cardiolus, but the white shaman at the entrance was not pleased to see a human and a hybrid there. He made it clear that it was not possible that day, as it was exam day and only shamans could enter. Sakura showed the Adventurers Guild letter of recommendation, but the white shaman became even angrier and repeated that it was exam day, so there would be no exceptions. Suddenly, Doug appeared. He was the representative of the Northern Shamans Association and also its president. His cloak marked him as a blue shaman. Noticing all the commotion, he wanted to understand what was happening. At once, everyone present changed their posture upon seeing such an important figure. The white shaman tried to blame Tsuyoshi and Sakura for the confusion. Doug assessed the situation and decided that he would purify the Cardiolus for Tsuyoshi, but informed him that it could not be done that exact day because of the exam. Tsuyoshi showed urgency and asked if there was another way to resolve it. The association president said the only alternative was for Tsuyoshi to participate in the shaman exam and achieve the highest score. In that case, as a bonus, the president himself would handle the purification. However, there was a problem. As Tsuyoshi was a warrior, he did not meet the minimum qualifications to take the shaman exam. This sparked the protagonist's curiosity, and he wanted to know what the requirements were. Everyone there began laughing at him, thinking he was just another foolish human trying to stand out. To become a shaman, one needed at least the aptitude of a mage. A shaman's essence was magical. Additionally, the candidate had to pass basic tests in potion making and item crafting. Tsuyoshi then asked the president if he could borrow his staff. This surprised Doug, but he soon understood that the request was to prove that the boy met the requirements. For some reason, Doug decided to trust him and handed over the staff. Tsuyoshi did not waste time. He touched the staff to the white shaman's heart, making everyone uncomfortable. But he had a hunch. If he he was right, he could duplicate a mage's abilities and use the staff as a conduit. By analyzing all the white shaman's skills, he realized that his class was not limited. He chose a skill called Radiance, which created a strong light capable of blinding enemies for 3 seconds. He began emitting magical waves and asked Sakura to close her eyes. A bright light spread throughout the area. Doug had to use a shield spell to try to protect himself. The panel indicated that Tsuyoshi could increase his magical energy using supreme physical power. He decided to do this to test his capacity. The intensity of the light grew exponentially, surprising even the president. Doug's shield could not withstand the force of the attack. Afterwards, Tsuyoshi asked if he had passed the qualification exam to become a shaman. Everyone was confused. No one expected a human to have such power. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone looked at him as if he were an enemy. This happened because he was the first human to pass the shaman exam. Sakura then explained that the Romans had a class called pharmacist, similar to shamans and elves. Even with this explanation, a new opposition arose. Eel's pig appeared. He was also a blue shaman and disagreed with Doug's decision, believing it would endanger the honor of the Beastman faction. Still, Doug remained curious about Tsuyoshi's potential. The only person he had seen with similar power was the genius shaman Kevin. Eels, however, did not accept this. He said Tsuyoshi could not even be compared to Kevin's apprentice, a girl named Fulin. The exam proceeded. That first demonstration had been only the beginning. All candidates had to position themselves according to their drawn numbers. Tsuyoshi's number was 15. He went to the marked location and realized that Fulin herself was next to him. She was surprised to see he was human. The next test involved creating a potion. Suddenly, a workstation appeared before them. Seeing that Tsuyoshi seemed lost, Fulin began to provoke him. Her goal was to make him give up and leave. Eels then struck his staff on the ground, starting the official test. On the paper given to Tsuyoshi, the instructions stated that he had to produce 3 basic skill potions. He would have 1 hour to complete the task. However, seeing the materials before him, he was completely lost, not knowing where to start. But he soon realized he was not the only one in that situation. Some candidates were just as confused as he was. On the other side, Fulin demonstrated her preparedness and began working immediately. Tsuyoshi remained still, observing carefully while using his divine eye. When she finished the 3 potions, she noticed that he had been watching her the entire time. She was confused, not understanding why he had not started. In fact, Tsuyoshi had been analyzing the entire process. Thanks to his observation, he had understood the refinement method and the correct potion-making process. Without wasting more time, he began working, and to everyone's surprise, completed the steps faster than Fulin. Still, some mistakes occurred during the process. Other candidates tried to provoke him to destabilize him. However, Fulin intervened, saying they should not disturb him. She explained that a true shaman's common sense was to respect others' efforts. Given the situation, Tsuyoshi decided to use the divine hammer to complete the work. With this, he was able to refine the potions perfectly. By the end of the exam, he had passed. He then approached Sakura and informed her that the test was over. He took her to where the president of the Shamans Association was. Now that he had demonstrated his abilities, the protagonist expressed the desire to purify the Cardiolus with his own hands. As he prepared to leave, Fulin appeared visibly upset. She could not accept losing to a human, which left her quite shaken. Sakura overheard her mention Kevin as her master, which shocked her. Tsuyoshi, in turn, noticed the change in Fulin's behavior. Then they all headed to the ritual room. Doug and Eels accompanied Tsuyoshi and Sakura. The president began the ritual and invoked the 4 elements. He called upon the Mother of Earth, the Father of Fire, the Spirit of Water, and the Breath of Wind, guardians of the great elements, to hear his plea. In the name and word of the shamans, he requested the purification of the Cardiolus. Eels remarked that the protagonist had the luxury of having the president involved in a ritual of this level. After completing the invocation, Doug drove his staff into the ground. The stone began to transform, taking on a completely different appearance. He explained that the Cardiolus was classified into 3 different grades: low, medium, and high. The one the protagonist possessed was of medium grade. Tsuyoshi had been lucky. This meant that the amount of experience he would gain in a dark area would be very high. Based on his own experience, Doug recommended that he form a balanced group before entering. A tank, 2 warriors, 2 offensive mages, and a pharmacist would be ideal. He asked if the boy had already chosen his team members, but the protagonist made it clear that his group consisted only of him and Sakura. In fact, he planned to face the dark area completely alone. The answer left both Eels and Doug visibly shocked. Even so, they continued the process. They would now open the entrance to the dark area. Once inside, Tsuyoshi could fight against the darkness 3 times. After that, he would be automatically expelled, and the Cardiolus would turn to dust, disappearing forever. As soon as he entered the area, he could no longer leave unless he defeated all the monsters inside or waited for the time to run out. If he died, his body would be removed from the area. Sakura, worried, handed him some potions to help him. The president of the Shamans Association considered lending him his staff, but the protagonist refused. He believed he wouldn't need it. After all, he was a warrior, and entered the portal with his sword in hand. He arrived at a place called the Dark Forest shadow area. He had 12 hours to clear the location. Every time he completed the task, he would gain another 12 hours, and this could be repeated 3 times. He soon encountered shadow wolves at level 10. Without wasting time, he activated his supreme physical ability and combined it with his chain thunderfall skill, defeating several shadow wolves at once. However, it wasn't that easy. After struggling with the remaining wolves, he finally caught a breath. His stamina was depleted, as the supreme ability demanded a lot from his body. Fortunately, Sakura had helped by providing a good supply of potions. He recovered and continued fighting. He began to grow impatient, eager to reach level 7. Eventually, he encountered an enormous door. He suspected it led to the boss room, but preferred to fully restore his health before entering. Once at 100%, he decided to proceed. Soon, he sensed a familiar energy, similar to the carnivorous darkness he had faced before. But the intimidation this time was different. He believed he had finally found the true dark area boss. He confronted a monster known as the one who cuts everything through darkness. It was the area boss at level 14. The boss tried to strike him with chains. Its abilities were extremely powerful, and the protagonist struggled to react. At first, he could only block the attacks. At one point, he was hit by a skill called Tremble Slow, which paralyzed him for several seconds. Desperate, he used his magic ring to defend himself. Suddenly, the boss remarked that he was strong and had an impressive presence. It was surprised that its skill had been broken. Tsuyoshi was shocked to realize the boss could speak. The enemy tried to explain that darkness was the greatest existence of all and paralyzed him once more before attacking again. The protagonist blocked the strike and realized he was facing a formidable foe. He attempted a counterattack with Chain Thunderfall, but the boss easily dodged and launched a massive attack. It thought it had defeated him, but it was wrong. Tsuyoshi reappeared wearing special armor. He had performed a sacrifice that freed him from all negative effects and granted immense power for a short period. The ability Tsuyoshi used had been obtained from the boss itself. This confused the monster, as it could not believe a human could wield a power of darkness. For the protagonist, it seemed simple. He advanced with all his strength and struck the enemy, defeating the dark area boss. Immediately afterward, he felt intense pain throughout his body and realized he could faint at any moment. The sacrifice skill was powerful, but came at a steep cost. Upon checking the items he obtained, he discovered he had acquired the boss's weapon, a sword called Bloody Mist Saw, with passive and secondary abilities linked to bleeding effects. Then he was reset and finally reached level 7. Even so, he concluded that the sacrifice ability was dangerous. The physical damage it inflicted did not disappear. He realized he would need to strengthen his physical resistance before losing control of his own evolution. For Tsuyoshi, no price was too high to become stronger, so he decided to press forward without hesitation. He resumed his journey, feeling guilty for making Sakura wait. Meanwhile, outside, she waited with President Doug and Eels. They discussed the possibility that the protagonist might already be dead. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise. A silhouette appeared at the portal. It was Tsuyoshi. He appeared, apologizing to Sakura. He explained that he had completed everything 3 times, earning a bonus experience. He leveled up 3 times and was now level 9. However, he was severely injured. Without delay, the shamans rushed to assist him. After being healed, Doug reported that much of Tsuyoshi's muscles and nerves were severely damaged. The fact that he was still alive was considered a miracle. Even so, after treatment, he said he felt fine. Seeing this, Eels apologized. He had not believed the protagonist could survive. Tsuyoshi remained calm and avoided any conflict. Eels had used a technique called Reflex, which acted as an intermediary for the healing ability. Despite the improvement, Tsuyoshi's body remained in critical condition. He required urgent treatment, and delay could mean death. It seemed he had used a forbidden technique and could no longer repeat it. If he suffered that kind of damage again, he might no longer be able to evolve. The protagonist began to feel that the sacrifice skill was affecting his mind. He had strange visions, with a malignant presence, which made him suspicious. Doug then handed him some potions, explaining that they were Kevin's favorite medicine. They would help with recovery, but ideally, he should find Kevin personally. Doug mentioned that if Tsuyoshi showed talent, he could become Kevin's apprentice, learning much of his medicinal knowledge. Kevin was one of the few on the continent who mastered the legendary law of ruin. In this world, laws govern the magic of heaven and earth. Spells based on these laws possess immense power and are called forbidden ruin spells. For shamans, it was essential to improve the effectiveness of refined medicines. However, the laws of heaven and earth were violent, some with a will of their own. There were 12 hidden laws in unexplored areas. Even if someone discovered them, they needed training and skill to acquire them. Kevin was called a genius because he had mastered the 12th law, the law of the great winds. Therefore, he had the ability to heal deep wounds like those Tsuyoshi carried. Doug prepared a recommendation letter and handed it to the protagonist. Along with with it, he provided rare medicines for exchange and to start a dialogue with Kevin. The protagonist set off in search of Kevin, accompanied by Sakura. She had managed to gather information about his location. However, it would be a long journey, and Tsuyoshi could use the path to gain even more levels. To accomplish everything he needed, Tsuyoshi realized he could not proceed alone. He needed a group. Sakura took him to the mission hub, a place where many adventurers waited for new tasks or sought companions to form teams. The area was bustling. Some shouted, others analyzed information on boards, while many simply observed. Among them, a tall warrior called for new members. He was looking for someone at level 15 to join his group and shouted so everyone could hear. Tsuyoshi, now level 9, approached and asked if he could join. The adventurer reacted with anger and disdain upon seeing his low level. Before the discussion escalated, the mission gates opened. The adventurers couldn't miss the opportunity and rushed in. Reluctantly, the group captain agreed. With few options, they decided to give Tsuyoshi a chance. Shortly afterward, during the mission, they encountered a forest rhinoceros, a massive level 16 creature. While everyone hid and tried to strategize, Tsuyoshi advanced alone and activated his Chain Thunderfall skill. With a single strike, he defeated the monster. Everyone was stunned by what they witnessed. The mission continued. Although challenging, these ordinary tasks were nothing compared to the difficulty of the dark area. Still, they provided good experience. Further ahead, they encountered a giant tree, also level 16. Using his divine eye, Tsuyoshi noticed that it could drop a rare item called Blood Rose, a valuable medicinal resource, perfect as a gift for Kevin. Before facing the monster, the group decided to rest around a campfire. The team leader, Victor, took the opportunity to talk to Tsuyoshi. He explained that each region had specific rankings for its missions. These mission points were different from those that disappeared over time. Some were fixed and recorded important data, such as first completions and best performances. This could generate extra bonuses and even increase adventurers' fame. Victor also revealed that, although it seemed like a random group, he was part of Guild Q. His squad consisted of 15 pioneers and was known as the Great Goat Group. The guild founder was named Harvey. Victor believed Tsuyoshi should meet the captain, given his demonstrated potential. To join the group, Tsuyoshi set 2 conditions. The first was to receive all initial mission experience. The second was to choose first among reward bonuses. Victor agreed. Later, they encountered another monster that used vines. They used fire and defeated it. Tsuyoshi obtained the Blood Rose exactly as he had planned. Sakura supported her friend. She thought it was incredible that he was already being invited to groups, even though he was only level 9. She mentioned that she had only achieved that when she was already level 30. She wouldn't accompany him this time. If they didn't meet afterwards, she agreed to wait for him at the Adventurers Guild. Tsuyoshi then went to meet the leader of Guild Q. Sakura thought this would be ideal, since she needed to investigate more about Kevin, the genius who piqued her interest so much. Deep down, she knew that if he had already mastered the fusion law of earth and wind, her plan to kill him might need adjustments. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Harvey, the captain of Guild Q. He thought Victor was joking when he said there was a level 9 rookie with 2 extra demands. Victor explained that the boy had easily obtained a Blood Rose and had already brought it there. Tsuyoshi tries to speak with the captain, but is met with disdain from the other members. Many began mocking his appearance and level, unaware of who he really was. Victor starts supporting him and shows that he shouldn't care about their mockery. The protagonist then asserts himself in front of the captain. He confidently says he is prepared and that Harvey should let him take responsibility. Everyone thinks he's losing his mind, but in reality, Tsuyoshi only wanted to be the mission captain because he believed that in this way they could complete it. Captain Harvey accepts the condition because he wanted to see how far the protagonist could go. However, he made it clear that if Tsuyoshi failed, there would be no mercy. When the group arrives at the mission point, some members dislike the leadership change. Despite the pressure, the protagonist remains unfazed. They enter the portal and are transported to a place called the Swamp of Darkness. Tsuyoshi already has a plan and asks the captain if he will receive all the experience from the monsters. For the group, honor is more important, and if he clears the first wave of enemies, they won't mind. The protagonist selects hard mode on the panel. This increases the mission's difficulty, but also gives more experience points. Everyone is shocked by the choice, but Tsuyoshi tries to calm the group and activates his divine eye. Soon he encounters creatures called swamp crocodiles. They are level 18, well above what he has faced before. The group members prepare their defenses. The protagonist draws his sword and orders the mages to use fire magic. The mages launch a coordinated attack and destroy several enemies simultaneously. The protagonist uses his thunder skill amidst the flames. Captain Harvey is surprised. Even at level 9, Tsuyoshi easily defeats 6 enemies. Tsuyoshi wants to continue the expedition and urges everyone to follow him. 30 minutes later, still in the Swamp of Darkness, he uses the Divine Eye to find an optimized route. This route would lead to the destination more quickly. However, he decides to go through an area with stronger enemies to gain more experience. He informs the group of his decision. Everyone is shocked. Now they respect him but think he's going too far. Tsuyoshi doesn't want to waste time. He turns his back on the group and tells them to position themselves and wait for his signal. He enters the water and encounters a monster called the Soul Devourer. The Divine Eye shows that its weakness is fire. The protagonist's attack is so powerful that it destroys the monster and spreads its remains across the ground. Upon noticing other monsters in the water, he uses the Chain Thunderfall skill. All enemies in the water are electrocuted. When the monsters begin to chase him, he signals the group to engage in combat. The group attacks the enemies with full force. The protagonist's performance is so impressive that everyone forgets he is just a level 9 human warrior. Captain Harvey thinks that, when the mission ends, he will recommend the protagonist to the Master's Guild. They reach the Swamp Observer, the boss of that area. It is level 18. Magic attacks and flames are highly effective against it. The protagonist has already earned everyone's respect. When he says he has a plan, everyone is eager to hear what he intends to do. The mages are supposed to pair up and prepare the best high-impact magic they can. They will cast it as soon as they receive Tsuyoshi's signal. Another part of the group will use debuff items, such as poisons or tools that cause bleeding. The boss has very high HP, and in hard mode, everything becomes even more intense. They enter the red portal. When the mission is in hard mode, the portal changes color. Instead of normal, it glows red. As soon as they pass through, they fall straight into the mission. The Swamp Observer is not an easy enemy. The group struggles from the very beginning of the fight. After 15 minutes of intense battle, they finally defeat the boss. Everyone cheers at the victory, and the protagonist reaches level 10. But that's not all. Being the bearer of the Infinity Ring, he receives a special bonus upon reaching this level. He gains the black armor disguise set as a reward. He equips the armor, which is highly flexible and can only be used by the ring bearer. It cannot be sold or traded. The armor changes form based on the wearer's imagination and can serve as a disguise mimicking other sets. The protagonist looks so different that the others don't recognize him. He explains that he only changed his armor. They had completed the mission. The total time was 150 minutes and 36 seconds. When they exit the portal, everyone outside is shocked. The protagonist is now widely talked about. He showed confidence and valor. He even received apologies from those who had doubted him before. Now, all guild leaders wanted Tsuyoshi to join their groups, but he decides to join Guild Q. It was with this guild that he faced all the monsters in the Swamp of Darkness. After the mission, he returns to the Northern Beastmen City. Everyone is surprised by his appearance, all because of the new set. He had promised to meet Sakura at the Adventurers Guild. Unsure if she would be there, he went to look for her. Upon arriving, he finds the hostess, who is surprised by his change. He asks about Sakura. The hostess says she hasn't seen her that day. She only mentioned seeing 2 orcs making noise. One of the orcs gets irritated by the conversation and tries to attack the guild hostess herself. The protagonist reacts quickly and uses his supreme physical aspect skill to protect her. The orcs say they should go outside to fight since this isn't the right place, but the protagonist wants to find Sakura and doesn't have time for that. The hostess is worried. If he leaves, he might be attacked. She says that inside the guild, he would be protected by the guards. Even so, the protagonist doesn't care and says it's fine. At that moment, Harvey appears and calls the protagonist captain. Everyone is shocked to hear this. Even those who wanted to fight him stop. The hostess is also surprised. Tsuyoshi is in a good mood and lets it slide. He says those 2 guys only wanted to pick a fight with him. They eventually leave. Victor asks what happened, and the protagonist explains that his companion wasn't there. They then head to Guild Q's conference room. In the room, a meeting takes place. The protagonist thinks it's no longer necessary to call him captain since the mission is already over. The guildmaster, known as Q, congratulates everyone on completing the mission. Even so, he belittles Tsuyoshi a little. Captain Harvey intervenes and says the protagonist is a super talented human who made all the difference in the mission. Other members begin accusing Tsuyoshi with various arguments. They say he could be a spy from another guild. Victor tries to defend the protagonist and points out some truths, but the discussion continues. The protagonist then makes it clear that he was only there because of Captain Harvey, and since that was the case, he is leaving. He also tells Harvey not to worry, as he has been an honorable companion. Harvey is quite upset because he knows the protagonist has the potential to take the group to a new level. As they leave the room, a beastman with a dog-like appearance, who had mocked Tsuyoshi earlier, appears. His demeanor is different now. He had already apologized before and now comes with a proposal. In his guild, they received a very difficult request, and Tsuyoshi was the perfect person for the mission. The guild president wanted someone very strong. The protagonist shows more interest in the reward. The beastman explains that the request is urgent urgent. It concerns rescuing the kidnapped daughter of a wealthy merchant. Tsuyoshi finds it very suspicious, as the mission seems too simple. However, the reward is 100 times greater than normal. 500 gold coins could cover the guild's expenses for a year. If the protagonist participates, he would receive half of that. He can't resist and accepts the mission. At the location of the guild conference, the father of the kidnapped girl named Wenton is very angry. No one has done anything to save his daughter, and he is starting to make threats. The guildmaster tries to explain that they are devising a plan and that the girl will be rescued soon. Wen grew even angrier. He thought the guild should have already been taking action. At that moment, the Beastman arrived with Tsuyoshi in the middle of the discussion. He practically begged the protagonist to accept the mission. Tsuyoshi was still thinking about how everything would work. The Beastman's fear was justified. If guild pace failed and the girl died, the guild's reputation would be ruined, and they would face heavy compensations. As Wenton raged, Tsuyoshi was direct. He said the girl would be saved, but he wanted to make a bet with the merchant. If he managed to rescue his daughter, Wenton would double the reward to 1,000 gold coins. Wenton thought the protagonist was mocking him, but Tsuyoshi said that if he failed, he would pay 50,000 coins to the merchant. Wen immediately accepted the bet. They drafted a contract. The guildmaster signed it trembling. The situation was already tense, and the protagonist had made it even worse. After Wenton left, everyone in guild pace began to complain. President Doug from the Shaman's Association arrived to check on the group. Doug was also there to heal a wound. He discovered that the guild's financial situation was not good. He quickly used his healing skills. Tsuyoshi found everything difficult, but was confident they could succeed. He greeted Doug. Doug was surprised to see him there and said he also trusted that the protagonist would complete the mission. The dog-like Beastman commented to the guildmaster that he hadn't realized Doug and Tsuyoshi were so close. Now it was clear that this human was no ordinary person. Meanwhile, the protagonist went out to plan with the team participating in the rescue. Doug stayed talking with the guild master and the vice president. Finally, Tsuyoshi asked one of the guild pace members to take him to the arena. He didn't want to watch a fight. He wanted to participate. His plan was to use the divine selection system to adjust his attributes for the assassin class. The mission required someone who could infiltrate and eliminate the target without being noticed. That's why he went to the arena. There, he could identify the best assassin combat skills and replicate them. At that moment, a shadow assassin from the cat tribe named Naruto, level 21, was fighting a giant blue orc from the Beastmen tribe, also level 21. At the end of the fight, Naruto won. Tsuyoshi observed his speed and decided he wanted to face him. Everyone began calling the protagonist a rookie. Naruto thought he must be crazy to challenge someone with experience in one-on-one combat. He decided to defeat him quickly, but Tsuyoshi already had his supreme physical aspect skill activated, along with the divine eye, analyzing every movement of the opponent. Naruto attacked, but Tsuyoshi dodged all strikes. When hit, his body remained intact, which impressed the opponent. The protagonist began identifying the desired skills and counterattack. He struck with his sword and quickly defeated Naruto. The system panel confirmed that he now had assassin attributes. Even after the fight, the protagonist decided to carry out the rescue at night. They went to the place where Wenton's daughter was held. It was a fortified location. One of the beastmen from Guild Pace stayed by the protagonist's side, talking with him until he realized Tsuyoshi was no longer there. The protagonist had moved alone and used the divine eye to scan the area. He activated the black armor disguise and headed toward the fortress. The guards heard a noise and began patrolling. When one of them faltered, Tsuyoshi eliminated him with a kunai to the chest. He advanced with ease and started searching for the next enemies. While taking down the henchmen, the guild-paced beastman caught up with him. Ahead, they encountered traps. Spinning iron balls tried to knock them down. They managed to get through the trap. Shortly after, they reached an area filled with henchmen. The Guild Pace member decided to attract their attention with his arrows, successfully making them chase him. The protagonist seized the opportunity and found the tent where the girl was. Inside, she was with the enemy leader, a wild leopard. The leopard noticed Tsuyoshi's presence and attacked him fiercely. During the confrontation, the leopard found the protagonist's presence strange, believing he wasn't part of Guild Pace. Tsuyoshi also found the kidnapper's behavior odd, as he acted unusually gentle with the girl. Tsuyoshi informed the wild leopard that he was there to rescue the merchant's daughter and represented Guild Pace. The leopard refused to give up the girl and struck the protagonist with a powerful kick. Tsuyoshi decided to analyze the enemy's abilities using his divine eye. With the speed he had gained after defeating an assassin in the arena, he attacked the leopard with a thunder attribute strike. Still, the attack was not enough to defeat it. While the two fought, the girl appeared and saw the scene. She called the leopard uncle and wanted to understand what he was doing. The leopard explained that he had already told her to stay quiet while he left, as his behavior completely completely changed around her. The girl began scolding Tsuyoshi because she believed the leopard wasn't a bad person. Tsuyoshi tried to explain that he was only there to rescue her and had no ill intentions. He saw his own sister in the girl, as she had the same look Karina showed when angry. Even so, the girl didn't want to be rescued, as she liked that place and said her uncle was kind. This confused Tsuyoshi, and he wanted to understand if they would still fight or not. The leopard said he would take the girl to sleep before continuing the discussion. After she fell asleep, Tsuyoshi wanted to understand better what was really happening and whether the girl truly liked him. The leopard explained that he worked for Wenten and was part of a sort of secret gang. This surprised Tsuyoshi, who asked why he had kidnapped the girl. The leopard made it clear that it was all for money. Went on, demanded high compensations from other guilds. It was all a trap, and Tsuyoshi had almost fallen for it. The girl had not been truly kidnapped, but was used in a fake rescue. Went on himself orchestrated everything, creating mechanisms and obstacles to prevent any ordinary guild from intervening. Furthermore, the girl wasn't Wenten's real daughter. He had stolen her as a baby and raised her as his own to maintain his scheme. The leopard was the one who had truly raised the girl and had grown very attached to her. He couldn't betray Wenten because, in the past, he had been starving and living on the streets until Wenten took him in. Went on, gave him food, shelter, and training. Tsuyoshi then turned his back and told the leopard to leave with the girl and give himself a new life. He then told the guild pace member to return and inform the president that the mission was a success, as he would go after Wenten himself. Soon after, Tsuyoshi appeared at Wenten's house. He was determined to change the child's fate and put an end to everything. While Wenten panicked, begging for mercy, there was nothing more to be done. His subordinates had already been defeated. Tsuyoshi demanded 50,000 gold coins for the guild as compensation since the girl was now in a safer place. He knew exactly how Wenten had been making money off the child. Wenten tried to negotiate by offering half the profits in exchange for his life, but Tsuyoshi was not a sellout and wouldn't accept that. Therefore, he took Wenten's life. The next day, people found Wenten dead in his house. Naruto appeared and, after a brief analysis, concluded that the only person who could have done it was Tsuyoshi. He believed he could report it to the guild in hopes of returning to the Assassin's Guild, as this was his chance to redeem himself. Then, the protagonist brought a chest full of gold to Guild Pace, leaving everyone impressed. They had just received news that Wenten had been killed, and if the protagonist hadn't recovered the gold, the reward would never have been paid. However, he didn't care, as the mission was complete and he had leveled up. He took the 2,500 gold coins and decided to donate them all to homeless children and struggling families. After that, he left the guild. Now at level 11, and with the mission completed, he returned to the Adventurers Guild to find Sakura. Upon arriving, he found a crowd gathered and wondered what was happening. It was the wife of the president of the Northern Beastmen Trading Company, creating trouble with Sakura, accusing the hybrid of having tripped her son. Sakura explained she was only standing, waiting for someone, but suddenly the woman slapped her face, causing her to fall to the ground, caught by surprise. At that moment, the protagonist leaped and delivered a kick to the woman's face before she could do anything worse. He didn't care who she was, even if she was important. If she was unhappy, she would have to face the consequences. Meanwhile, Naruto had already arrived at the Assassin's Guild, being threatened, but explained that he had valuable information in exchange for a conditional agreement. At the same time, the woman who got kicked swore she would kill both of them. Tsuyoshi helped Sakura up and told the guard that what he did was self-defense, as the woman and her son had started the conflict. Some members of Guild Q who were present recognized the protagonist and were impressed that he had completed another mission, now in Guild Pace. He explained that he got involved in the fight because his companion had been assaulted by the wife of the trading company president, and the members of Guild Q wanted to know how they could help. The guard explained that they were in trouble, as if no one testified on their behalf. The law required them to be taken into custody. At that moment, the protagonist's companions offered to testify for him, and the hostess herself appeared, saying she would also help. The trading company president's wife was speechless with so many witnesses. The guard decided to take her away, and given the situation, she was forced to apologize to Sakura, which she did quickly. After that, they left the place and continued on their way. Upon leaving the city, the protagonist showed the girl that he had now managed to gather 250 gold coins, which left her quite impressed. He intended to use the money to buy new equipment for her, but she said he didn't need to spend his own money and mentioned that there was a nearby town with a medium-sized light hall, where a genius shaman named Kevin lived. The protagonist then remembered that he needed to find this man. As they walked, smiling, he suddenly felt something strange. Someone was trying to ambush them. The man responsible was the one Naruto had spoken to earlier. He appeared and made it clear that the punishment for skill thieves was death, claiming they belonged to the Assassin's Guild and that they would claim Tsuyoshi head. They revealed that Naruto had exposed the truth, saying that the protagonist was a skill thief who had stolen the guild's ambush technique. Quickly, Sakura drew her sword, and for the first time, the protagonist felt such an intense killing intent coming from her. She wanted to warn him that these two enemies were completely different from anything he had faced before. Tsuyoshi remembered what he had had done in the arena when he stole his opponent's ambush technique. That skill was exclusive to the Assassin's Guild. Without wasting time, the enemy activated a skill called Absolute Darkness, designed to impair the victim's vision and allow stealth attacks. Even so, Tsuyoshi managed to block the strike. The assassin was intrigued and wanted to know the protagonist's level, to which he replied that he was level 11. The response seemed like a provocation to the enemy, who found it absurd. Meanwhile, Tsuyoshi analyzed all the movements with his divine eye. Suddenly, the assassin changed form, taking on a ghostly appearance. It was a technique he only used as a last resort. The battle intensified. He managed to strike the protagonist, but Tsuyoshi still had a card up his sleeve. He decided to use his Supreme Body Aspect skill and, at the same time, activate the Divine Hammer, which could only be used for a second. With this, he managed to hit the assassin forcefully. Even severely injured, the enemy was still alive. He recognized Tsuyoshi's power and said it was impossible for someone of that level to possess such strength. He began to lament and then activated a death summoning technique, warning that if he were killed, the protagonist would become a target of the Assassin's Guild. The Divine King's hammer shattered, and Tsuyoshi collapsed from extreme exhaustion, unable to continue. He needed to recover quickly, so he drank a potion that Sakura offered him. She believed that the enemy was a high-ranking member of the Assassin's Guild and thought finishing the fight quickly was a wise decision. The protagonist realized he was already close to level 12 in that world and decided that he would soon need to return to his own. There, he would still have to deal with Mina's group and the problems involving Karina. Mina's boyfriend's father was the deputy leader of the Blue Snake Gang, which would bring even more conflicts. During the search of the assassins' bodies, Sakura found rare potions that increased experience gain by 45%. Tsuyoshi was excited, as this meant he could reach level 12 even before arriving in Kevin's town. Fully recovered thanks to the potions, they continued their journey. Along the way, they faced a horde of smaller monsters, defeated a field boss, and found a group that had failed a mission. Tsuyoshi decided to help them and completed the objective almost alone. Finally, he reached level 12, and they were already near Kevin's town. They decided to rest at an inn and managed to get a room. However, a shaman in a blue cloak arrived accompanied by a woman, and the innkeeper immediately tried to offer him the room. He attempted to justify it, saying that this was Vicent, a direct disciple of the genius Kevin and a respected figure in the region. Upon hearing this, the protagonist made it clear that he didn't care about titles or reputations and demanded that the innkeeper show him the way to the room. Vicent continued insisting, trying to demonstrate his importance, but Tsuyoshi lost patience and forcefully knocked him to the ground. Furious, the blue-cloaked shaman stated that the protagonist would regret what he had done, promising to make sure he would not be welcome in Karnyo. Meanwhile, Tsuyoshi simply insisted that the innkeeper show the way to the room. Sakura was a little concerned and asked if he really didn't care that the man was Kevin's disciple. But Tsuyoshi replied that he treated others the same way they treated him. For him, there was no reason to respect someone who disrespected him. Night came. When Sakura fell asleep, Tsuyoshi returned to his world because he wanted to see his sister Karina. At home, he was relieved to realize he hadn't woken her. Seeing her lying there, he began recalling everything they had faced. Observing the equipment that allowed her to walk, he realized how hard she had fought to protect him. He lay on his bed and accessed the system, confirming that his equipment in the other world was still intact. Now, he only needed to find a good opportunity to level up. The next morning, they walked to school. Karina wanted to know what had happened to her brother, as he looked completely different after just one night. Tsuyoshi tried to convince her it was just the new haircut and a bit of exercise. Then, he asked her to take care of herself and wait for him in the classroom after lessons. Karina kept remembering what had happened the previous day until Mina appeared right in front of them. Mina's friend tried to change the subject quickly, but Tsuyoshi explained to his sister that now no one would bother her anymore. Karina noticed that the girls were behaving strangely. In the classroom, Rayleigh was talking to his cronies, saying he wouldn't bow to a loser who used to do tasks for them. He was clearly talking about Tsuyoshi. However, upon seeing the protagonist enter the classroom, everyone was shocked by the drastic change in his appearance. The teacher then announced that the Future Star Tournament would take place soon and asked if there would be any participants. She explained that the prizes that year were amazing, and even the teachers were interested. The winner would receive 10 million yen. Upon hearing this, Tsuyoshi thought that since he had borrowed 600,000 yen from the Blue Snake Gang at high interest, this prize would be enough to pay off the debt and even move Karina to an apartment with an elevator. Moreover, if he caught the attention of the school's Hero Association, he might even receive some support. Even without understanding much about the hero-related systems, he knew this was a real opportunity. For him, money in the real world was more important than gold world in the other world. He and Karina needed resources to survive and have a better life. Determined, he raised his hand and announced that he would participate. Rayleigh began mocking him, saying he shouldn't get so excited just because he had won once. He thought the protagonist had changed, but now he seemed to be delirious. Tsuyoshi then proposed a bet. If he lost, Rayleigh could do whatever he wanted, but if he won, they would have to stop bothering him. Rayleigh agreed, as the whole class would be witnesses. The teacher explained that there would be a preliminary test before the tournament, and confirmed that she would submit Tsuyoshi's registration in the form. Later, he went to the front of Karina's classroom and told her about the tournament. She simply responded by encouraging her brother. Meanwhile, Mina was talking to Billy. His father knew the hero classes of other schools, so she thought this was a good chance to teach Tsuyoshi a lesson. In the principal's office, he was worried because a student from the regular class had registered for the test. This student was Tsukishiro Tsuyoshi. The principal mentioned this to the secretary, who was surprised by the situation. In the test preparation area, there were many young semi-heroes. These are students born with natural talent and therefore placed in the high school hero class. These students have certain privileges and participate in competitions to defend the school's honor. The teacher supervising the pre-competition test found it strange to see a regular class student participating in this type of test. Everyone paid attention to Tsuyoshi because of this. In the observation room, the president of the school's hero association, named Suzuki, was also present. The test began as explained. Everyone had to form groups and enter the simulators. The three machines were basic level simulators used for Class D tests. They also simulated Class E and F caves. With the abilities of most participants, the system predicted an F rating. Tsuyoshi didn't know it was necessary to form groups. He only knew there would be a test in the afternoon and decided to go alone. Everyone entered the simulator and was impressed by the realism of the simulation. The system also provided basic equipment to each participant. After the simulation, the teacher congratulated all participants, saying that everyone had passed. Next, it would be the turn of the regular class student. The teacher mentioned that he could quit as soon as he entered if he wanted. The others began mocking Tsuyoshi because they didn't know he was a true hero. Since he had his own equipment in class, he didn't worry about it. Inside the simulation, he defeated several level 1 monsters. As his sister Karina was waiting, he wanted to finish quickly. Everything seemed simple to him. In 6 minutes, he had already reached the boss, a giant level 3 rabbit. He cleared the entire simulation in less than 10 minutes. The system showed a data error because his skills were far above the simulation's level. He noticed there was also a Class D cave simulation. He thought passing the Class F was enough, but decided to enter the Class D one as well. Meanwhile, outside, everyone thought he had died because he hadn't come out yet. The teacher began to suspect something, as 12 minutes had already passed, which was too long for a regular student. The president of the association watched, impressed that a regular class student had lasted that long. Tsuyoshi exited the machine after earning a perfect score. He had completed both the Class F and Class D tests. Everyone was shocked, thinking he should belong to the hero class. Tsuyoshi left the area without caring about the score. He only wanted to pass to participate in the tournament, as his sister was waiting. The president tried to talk to him and asked about the final boss of the Class D simulation. Tsuyoshi replied it was a level 6 dark wolf. It was fast but weak. Tsuyoshi only made a few cuts, and the monster died. After that, he left to fetch his sister. The president, observing this, believed he needed to analyze Tsuyoshi more thoroughly. He wasn't just a hidden genius, but a true monster. For this reason, he wanted to recruit him for the Hero Association. After this, all students had to register for the event before the arena meeting. The practical skill test would start soon. Everyone needed to go to the test area. Tsuyoshi still didn't fully understand. He thought the tournament would begin immediately. The test required minimal movement while maximizing power. Body movement and strength scores appeared on the screen. The first participant was a student from Sawahira High. His score wasn't very high, and most other students also had fairly average results. Almost everyone had similar weak results. Next was a student from Kurozu High. He was confident and achieved the highest score so far, with 89 in body movement and 92 in power. Everyone was very surprised at the level he reached. Then it was Tsuyoshi's turn. Karina watched the test and supported him with devices to assist her brother. Tsuyoshi then used his skill called Ultimate Body Aspect, concentrating all his energy into his index finger. When he touched the target, a strong shockwave spread, alarming everyone. The place fell silent, and the measuring machine couldn't record the numbers correctly. The score was so high that the system crashed. Tsuyoshi noticed this and thought he might have overdone it. He used so much force that the ball detached from the device. No one knew what it meant or what to do next. The machines began to be inspected. The president of the Hero Association approached Tsuyoshi and asked to see his hands. Seeing the calluses and scars, he asked why, and Tsuyoshi explained explained he had been working part-time jobs for over 10 years to support himself. This left the president very shocked. One of the technicians responsible for the inspection reported no equipment malfunction. After recovering the data, they discovered that both the movement and power scores were 100 each. Everyone was impressed, but some suspected it was too much strength to be true and began claiming it was cheating. The president of the association officially responded, stating that on behalf of the School Hero Association, he confirmed there was no data manipulation. This left everyone in shock, as the score was now officially validated. Among those present was a business partner of Billy's father, the leader of the Blue Snake Gang. He had received Billy's request and would do everything to fulfill it. Some students began revolting, saying they didn't believe the results and accused the system of being tampered with. Then they displayed Tsuyoshi's complete data from Seishin High on the big screen. Karina was impressed by her brother and couldn't believe how amazing he was. Mina became angry seeing Tsuyoshi stand out so much and started sending multiple messages to Billy, trying to resolve the situation. The tournament host announced that each school could form their own teams for the next stage, which would be a team competition. They also informed Tsuyoshi that, according to the rules, he needed at least 3 people to form a group. Since he was alone representing his school, he could not participate in this round. He understood the situation. In the end, his school was in first place with 10 points so far. Billy's business partner was frustrated because he couldn't interfere in this second match as he wanted. He planned to replace Tsuyoshi, and now the only option was to find him and secure victory in the next phase. From that moment on, each team would enter the simulator one at a time. The protagonist was thoughtful, as the supreme star would be determined by the highest final score, and additionally, the player with the best performance during the match would be named MVP. He was aiming for that title. If he achieved a good score in the individual rounds, he could win the 10 million yen prize. All schools were giving their best inside the simulator. They were already halfway through the competition, and as expected, Kurozu's senior group led by a large margin. Meanwhile, one of Seishin's teams had a visibly tired player until they remembered Tsuyoshi, who could help form the team. They needed 3 people and couldn't waste the chance for points. The protagonist then entered the portal with them. As soon as they reached the scenario, enemies began falling from the sky. Tsuyoshi asked his teammates to close their eyes. He then summoned his weapon, a cold blacklight sword, and quickly destroyed several monsters at once, also using his ultimate body aspect. Everyone was shocked to see that he had defeated 300 enemies at once. When the group's time ended, Tsuyoshi's team came in first, with about 330 monsters defeated. The president of the Hero Association asked how they managed to defeat so many enemies. The students replied honestly that they only closed their eyes as Tsuyoshi had instructed. Quickly, they began accusing the protagonist of cheating again. Another inspection was carried out, and although the numbers had increased suddenly, it was hard to prove any wrongdoing. The next test was long jump. The protagonist used his ultimate body reinforcement skill, concentrating all power in his legs, and with a jump so strong that it broke the ground, he took first place. In the short distance sprint, he also excelled. In the discus throw, he won again. At the corridor entrance, Billy was on his phone, confused because Boniface seemed unable to do anything. Billy's father's allies were using something called P2P mental interference, an expensive item circulating on the black market. They were now going to use it to defeat the protagonist. The interference had been adjusted to only 10% of its original power, so they considered it safe to use at that moment. Next came the final event of the day, the traditional tug of war, very popular among the audience. In tug of war, 3 players from each school use ropes to pull a chosen female student to the top. When the elevator stops, the student must lower the school flag to win. The host announced that Tsuyoshi would participate in the tug of war, but there was no available female student to pair with him. Any volunteer had to go to the competition area. Karina, without a second thought, shouted that she would do it, even with her weak legs. At that moment, Mina had an idea. She would participate just to cause chaos. Even if she didn't win, she would make it seem like the fault was Tsuyoshi's incompetence, not hers. She no longer trusted Billy and couldn't stand the situation any longer. When the volunteer arrived, the protagonist had his back turned. Turning around, he was shocked to see who was in front of him. Mina said she was there to help him. After the principal left, he ordered them to resolve it themselves. The protagonist immediately changed his expression, suspicious of why she was there. He thought she was planning something. Mina, teasing, said no one else would come, and he should be careful with his behavior. The host shouted, warning all participants to get ready, as the final elevator for the tug of war would begin. Mina then said that he should make sure to pull her up and secure first place. Despite saying this, it was all just talk. In the end, she realized that the protagonist was completely ignoring her. Boniface was consumed by hatred and had no intention of letting Tsuyoshi win that contest. The event was well organized, with assistants positioned around to help if any player lost strength and let go of the rope. When everything was ready, the tug-of-war began. Tsuyoshi held on tightly and quickly realized that it felt very light. His legs, strengthened by his ultimate physique, made the effort almost negligible. He thought that if he pulled too fast, it might raise suspicion, so he decided to gradually increase the speed, planning to secure first place at the right moment. Meanwhile, Boniface activated the P2P mental interference. A psychic shockwave swept across the field, striking Tsuyoshi's mind and causing an intense, sudden headache. The interference was extremely dangerous, and its use was prohibited, as it overloaded the brain and could cause permanent damage. Everyone was struggling to lift as much as they could. One of the students managed to lift his classmate, which prompted the protagonist to act. He activated his ultimate body enhancement ability and concentrated all his strength in his arms. Meanwhile, Mina watched angrily as he didn't even show any effort. She wished something would go wrong and decided to increase the pressure on the rope. The protagonist began to feel the rope trembling. An assistant asked Mina to stop moving so much, as it could become dangerous. She looked at the protagonist's face and saw him staring at her with intense anger. He asked if she was there just to cause trouble. She felt a murderous intent coming from him and was very frightened. At that moment, Boniface activated the item that caused P2P mental interference. Everyone began to feel an intense headache and held their heads. Boniface himself hadn't expected to be affected and fell to the ground in pain like the others. Tsuyoshi also felt the effect. But as the ring bearer, the system activated a mental protection barrier. Several students fell, and some girls also began descending from the structure asking for help. The protagonist felt the impact, but remained firm. Mina also started to fall, but he held her tightly. He activated the ultimate body enhancement again and focused the power in his legs. After that, he grabbed the ropes of all the girls to help them. The opponents were in severe headache pain, but weren't in danger. The girls, however, were, since even the assistants had been affected. The protagonist used all his strength until his gloves tore. Others tried to help him but wanted to pull him off the rope. He made it clear that he didn't want to give up. In the end, Mina saw how much he had exerted himself and rang the bell for him. Billy was furious at her action. The protagonist managed to save the girl, and everyone started cheering. The Blue Serpent gang learned of the victory and of his school being in first place. The gang leader decided it was better to retreat, realizing that Tsuyoshi was out of their reach. An inspector appeared to inform the principal that there was an urgent report. They explained that a student had used an illegal mental interference item. It was identified that Boniface from Kurozu High was responsible. The association president requested that they continue investigating the motives behind the incident. The school principal began treating Tsuyoshi differently, but he didn't care. The president of the Heroes Association informed that as the Future Star champion, he would receive a cash prize and that the ceremony would be held in a mansion located in a high-end area. Meanwhile, Mina wasn't so lucky. Billy grabbed her like she was trash and demanded an explanation for why she rang the bell. He pushed her against the wall and yelled that she had forgotten the humiliation Tsuyoshi had caused them. To him, both she and Boniface were useless. Mina replied that the protagonist had saved her life and the lives of everyone else. If it weren't for him, she might be dead or in the hospital. Outraged by Billy's coldness, she slapped his face. When he tried to retaliate, Tsuyoshi appeared and grabbed his hand. The protagonist quickly knocked him to the ground. Billy continued with threats, saying he was the son of the Blue Serpent gang leader. Tsuyoshi said that idiots were beyond cure and punched him in the face. Soon after, Mina's friend arrived, worried. Tsuyoshi turned his back and asked if Mina needed anything else. She knelt and apologized for having harmed his sister. She swore she would never touch Karina again and asked Vivian to apologize as well. Later, the protagonist was in the locker room resting and reflecting on everything. Rayleigh's allies appeared and, instead of causing trouble, apologized for having treated Tsuyoshi like a lackey all that time. After everything, the protagonist left, knowing things would never be the same. People began bothering him non-stop. Everyone venerated him and made a lot of noise wherever he went. He didn't like it at all. In the middle of this chaos, he found his sister. However, Mina ran over to warn him that Billy and his gang were nearby. Shortly after, she was grabbed by Billy himself, who began cursing her as if she were nothing. Rayleigh's allies, who were accompanying the protagonist, were terrified upon seeing Billy and his gang. Even so, the protagonist asked them not to get involved. He only wanted them to take care of his sister. From that day on, he no longer needed to hide anything. Everyone knew he was a hero, and now he would show it without fear. Using his full set, he prepared to face the gang. With his ultimate body reinforcement ability activated, he launched an attack, hitting several enemies simultaneously. While he dominated the fight, two men observed everything from a rooftop. They noticed that the intensity and precision of Tsuyoshi's power were on another level. Those two were S-rank heroes. The bald one was Dane from the Final Glory Guild, and the other was Sandor, belonging to the Furious Dragon Guild. During the fight, Tsuyoshi threatened Billy by throwing an iron bar to the ground. Billy panicked and fled. The protagonist thanked Mina for warning him in time. After that, he noticed noticed that several people continued following him, so he asked everyone to leave. He walked with his sister and explained that everything has a good and bad side. Fame attracts attention, and it isn't always positive. Then he told her that because of the tournament victory, the president of the school's Heroes Association would give him a bonus of 10 million yen and an apartment. Karina was surprised by the news. The protagonist was happy to know she wouldn't have to climb stairs every day anymore. He always thought of her. Taking care of his sister was his responsibility, and he would do it with care. On the way, the president of the Heroes Association appeared and asked if the protagonist had time to talk. He wanted to get to know him better and discuss the next supernova tournament. So they went to the protagonist's house. There, he offered tea to President Suzuki. The man wanted to know if Tsuyoshi had lived there with his sister all this time. The boy explained that he had. After their parents passed away, the two lived alone. The problem was that Karina had to climb many stairs every day. Suzuki thought it best for them to move the next day to the offered mansion. It was fully equipped, and he wouldn't need to worry. But before leaving, the president also wanted to know what had happened to Karina's legs. Tsuyoshi told the whole story. The president was moved and commented that he had heard the golden elixir of rebirth would be auctioned next month. If they could obtain this item, there was a real chance for Karina to regain mobility. The protagonist was shocked by this information. The golden elixir was a rare substance that restored lost bodily functions. However, to participate in the auction, he first needed to reach C-rank hero status. Additionally, he would need to gather at least 1 billion yen in capital. Upon learning the auction requirements, Tsuyoshi's heart almost broke. Gathering 1 billion yen in just 1 month seemed impossible. Moreover, the auction required status and power. The only viable path would be to achieve C-rank hero status, something possible if he placed among the top 3 in the supernova tournament. Being in that position, he could apply for a promotion. As for the money, President Suzuki was clear. Even being an important figure in the school's Heroes Association, he couldn't provide more than the standard 10 million yen prize. Tsuyoshi had never cared much about money, but now he understood that without it, he couldn't save his sister. The question of how to obtain such an absurd amount in so little time weighed heavily on his mind. Then he remembered Sakura. He hated the taste of the potions she prepared, but recognized their incredible effects. Unlike the capsules from his world, the potions from the other world had far superior results. Upon hearing this, Suzuki also explained that the supernova tournament was a major event. Guilds and factions with eligible members usually sent their most promising heroes. Without hesitation, Tsuyoshi asked for permission to participate. Excited, he ran off, taking Suzuki with him. He wanted to know where he could register as quickly as possible. They went to the headquarters of the Heroes Alliance, but when they arrived, the registration officer explained that Tsuyoshi did not yet meet the requirements. To participate, he needed to be among the top 3 in at least 2 public dungeons. Suzuki realized he had overlooked this detail, and time was short. The tournament would take place in just 1 week. The competitions in the public dungeons were already fierce. Currently, there were 6 available, 3 of C rank, 2 of D rank, and 1 of B rank, considered the most difficult of all. Even so, Tsuyoshi was undeterred. He decided he would secure a position among the top 3 in 2 dungeons before the tournament. Wasting no time, he used his unlimited passage ability and returned to the other world. There, he intended to acquire new formulas and reach level 15 before returning. Arriving in the city of Carnio, where the genius Kevin lived, he received an important warning. He could not remain in the other world for more than 3 days. Staying beyond this limit could cause permanent instability, preventing his return to the original world. Since he was at level 12, reaching level 15 in such a short time would be difficult. The next day, Sakura woke up and went with him through the city. They soon learned that Kevin had organized a refinement tournament with valuable prizes. The competition attracted young shamans and adventurers interested in rare medicines. Third place offered a basic potion formula. Second place included a learning, a normal formula, and a level up formula. First place granted direct discipleship under Kevin, as well as a basic formula and 2 level up formulas. For Tsuyoshi, this was perfect. If he could get these formulas, he could easily gather the 10 billion yen needed in the original world. He informed Sakura that he would participate in the tournament and win. But she was confused, thinking his goal was only to meet Kevin. Tsuyoshi believed that winning would be a fair way to prove his worth without begging. Sakura understood that her plans would have to be postponed once again. They went to the registration desk for the refinement tournament. There, Fulin was upset to see him. He didn't remember her, but she made a point to remind him that she had lost the shaman exam because of him, placing second. Tsuyoshi simply apologized and ignored her, focused on registering. At that moment, he came face to face with Vincent, who was furious to see him there. Vincent made it clear that he had sworn to prevent Tsuyoshi from being in Carnio, and that now he had fallen right into his hands. Wasting no time, he called 2 of his henchmen, beastmen, ready to attack. But Fulin, who considered Tsuyoshi her senior, asked him to stop. Tsuyoshi noticed the 2 beastmen approaching and decided it would be legitimate self-defense. However, the situation worsened when a man named Gillette appeared, stating that Vincent's enemies were also his enemies. Gillette also showed disdain for hybrids and threatened to be cruel to Sakura. Meanwhile, Vincent appeared indifferent to Fulin. Fulin, which surprised her, as she had only asked them to stop fighting. Tsuyoshi reassured Fulin and made it clear that he would put both of them in their place. He attacked Gillette, who managed to block the strike with difficulty. This impressed Vincent. Tsuyoshi attempted another attack, but someone arrived, interrupting the fight, and announced that the tournament was about to start. Because of this, Vincent withdrew, taking his brother with him. Kevin, a level 36 red shaman, witnessed the scene and expressed disappointment, saying that this shamed the shamans. Vincent tried to apologize to his master. Fulin took the opportunity to accuse Vincent of causing everything. Sakura, seeing Kevin, felt relieved. His presence commanded respect, and everyone began to tremble, especially Vincent, who started crying and begging for forgiveness. After sending everyone away, Fulin explained that she was there to help the human who had defeated her in the shaman exam. Kevin was surprised to learn that Tsuyoshi was that human. Tsuyoshi presented a letter of recommendation sent by President Doug, requesting his participation in the refinement tournament. Since it was a direct recommendation, Kevin decided to take him seriously and accepted to accompany him. Tsuyoshi noticed that Sakura had disappeared, but focused on the conversation with Kevin. After reading the letter, Kevin discovered that Tsuyoshi had been affected by darkness and was using forbidden elixirs to cope with the symptoms. The boy admitted that he had ventured alone into the dark area, which was reckless. Knowing that he faced everything alone impressed Kevin. Kevin asked if he had ever studied potion refinement and who his mentor was. Tsuyoshi replied that he had never studied and that everything he had done was instinctive. Kevin believed he could be a genius. As they walked, Kevin explained that a refined potion could contain the power of the laws and might even be able to remove the darkness from Tsuyoshi's body. He showed his refining chamber and asked for a drop of blood to examine. Kevin analyzed the blood and found traces of darkness, even though Tsuyoshi appeared fine. He warned that potions would no longer be sufficient and that he would need to use the power of the laws. Then he invoked a magical rune and applied it to Tsuyoshi's back, causing him pain. The intensity of the power increased, and Tsuyoshi activated his final physique to protect his body, which startled Kevin, as he noticed a strange power resisting the laws. Kevin began to see the boy as a possible threat and decided to place a secret seal on him. The seal, if activated, could kill him. Kevin then lied, saying that he had eliminated all traces of darkness. Tsuyoshi felt better and offered gold as thanks, but Kevin refused out of respect for Doug's recommendation. He informed Tsuyoshi that he could participate in the refinement tournament immediately, without preparation. They proceeded to the main location of the tournament. Fulin guided Tsuyoshi to the refining platform and warned that the blue shamans were careful, so he must stay alert. The tournament began. The first test was a herb examination, as a good shaman needed precise judgment. A blue shaman named Drax, resembling Dabura, also participated. As everyone positioned themselves, Tsuyoshi accidentally bumped into him. Tsuyoshi apologized to Drax, saying he had been distracted observing the area, but in reality he was pretending to analyze and learn all of that blue shaman's techniques. The tournament host took her position and announced that the first round, the herb exam, was about to begin. She explained that the name of a potion would be given, and participants had to identify the required ingredients and collect them within the time limit. Those who could not gather all ingredients in time would be eliminated. Scoring would be based on the quality of the ingredients collected. Meanwhile, Kevin spoke with Kante, a level 33 red beastman shaman. He remarked that there was a human participating in the tournament, someone not officially a shaman. This warrior had passed the exam as a human and defeated his own disciple, which made Kevin even more interested in his performance. Tsuyoshi observed the baskets with the ingredients and understood why half of the participants were always eliminated in the first test. There were only enough ingredients for half of them. Since the potions required multiple components, it was necessary to choose carefully and go to the correct baskets without wasting time or picking random items. The host announced the potion for the round. Beginner Refreshing Potion. Immediately, everyone began to run. Tsuyoshi activated the Divine Eye and saw that the recipe required Fire Spirit Herb, Wood Core, and Dry Vine. He ran to collect the ingredients, but the place was already crowded with participants. Then he used the Thunder Ambush ability to reach the first item quickly. Vincent noticed the use of the ability and stayed alert. Suddenly, everything around darkened, and Tsuyoshi appeared right in front of a beast man, startling him. He canceled the attack at the last moment and, guided by the Divine Eye, collected the ingredient. He then obtained the other two items, with the best quality available. The evaluators began reviewing the participants' ingredients, checking for accuracy and quality. Many were eliminated. Drax passed with a reasonable score. Vincent scored 94 out of 100. When it was Tsuyoshi's turn, the measuring device malfunctioned. After adjustment, the machine registered a perfect score of 100 points, surprising everyone present. One of the evaluators decided to publicly display the ingredients, confirming that there had been no error in the assessment. Kevin watched everything with even more curiosity, impressed by Tsuyoshi's performance. The second round began with a practical test. Participants had to refine an intermediate invisibility potion. Fulin approached and questioned Tsuyoshi for forgetting the staff, since refinement required a lot of mana. Not understanding how he had come this far without this basic item, she lent him hers with an impatient look. The host informed everyone that they must measure the ingredients and begin refining. The time limit was 30 minutes. The assistants distributed the herbs, and the timer started. Suddenly, one participant accused one of the organizers of tampering with his ingredients. He smashed the dish in front of the assistant, causing chaos. Drax and Vincent remained calm, as the task was simple for them. While everyone else was already in the middle of the refinement, Tsuyoshi hadn't even started yet. Count watched from afar and believed he wouldn't be able to finish in time. 12 minutes had already passed, and Fulin was beginning to lose patience, irritated by the young man's apparent slowness. Without showing any hurry, Tsuyoshi finally began the process. Meanwhile, many were still mocking him and doubting his abilities. Drax completed his refinement easily, finishing the task before half the time had passed. Kevin watched expectantly, wanting Vincent to show what he was capable of in front of everyone. Tsuyoshi, on the other hand, kept his eyes fixed on every movement Vincent made, copying everything with precision thanks to his divine eye. Vincent was performing an impressive refinement up to that point, but what Tsuyoshi was doing exceeded all expectations. The potion he was refining was of S grade, and something extraordinary began to happen. The mana that had previously been unstable started flowing with intense power, stronger than ever. This made Vincent uneasy while Drax began to tremble, unable to believe what he was seeing. Suddenly, a massive dragon appeared in the middle of the arena. Kevin and Count stood up with wide eyes. They were witnessing an S grade supernatural phenomenon, the highest level that exists. This type of event manifests when the refinement resonates with the heavens and the earth, invoking a divine punishment that usually only occurs during the creation of S-grade potions. Amid this chaos, Tsuyoshi began the fusion process. The system warned him that a massive lightning strike would hit him, recommending the use of the Divine King's hammer to absorb the impact. Without hesitation, he activated the weapon, which could only be used for 1 second. Everyone around was confused, trying to understand what was happening. With the hammer's use, the fusion was successfully completed, and the intermediate invisibility potion was refined. Count was furious, accusing Tsuyoshi of cheating by using the Divine King's hammer. He even apologized to Kevin for saying this, but insisted on the accusation. Vincent and the other participants also began doubting the legitimacy of the victory. Fulin defended Tsuyoshi, stating that he had already proven his skill during the shaman exam. The host said that ultimately Kevin should decide. Tsuyoshi remained calm and said he had nothing to hide, allowing them to investigate everything they wanted. Count proposed a mana measurement test to prove the young man's real strength. Tsuyoshi accepted the challenge. Count pointed his staff at him and asked him to release all of his magical energy. Tsuyoshi did so without hesitation, and a bright light enveloped the area as he released 100% of his mana. The result left everyone speechless. Count was shocked, and Kevin couldn't hide his admiration. Kevin approached, placed a hand on Tsuyoshi's shoulder, and apologized for doubting him. He acknowledged that it was the first time he had seen someone with so much talent, and declared that he was witnessing a true prodigy. He then turned to Count, and stated that there was no longer any reason to question the young man's performance. With the S-grade potion in hand, Kevin asked if anyone else had objections. He made it clear that if they were dissatisfied, they could challenge Tsuyoshi directly. None of the participants dared to face him. Thus, Tsuyoshi was officially declared the tournament champion. Fulin celebrated, showing great joy at the victory. When Tsuyoshi thanked her, Kevin observed him with a different look. Despite the recognition, something bothered him. He wondered how far this young man could go. Deep down, Kevin decided he would use all his connections and power to prevent Tsuyoshi from leaving the city. He believed that if he wasn't stopped, the young man could become a risk, and maybe it would be better if he died there. Fulin presented the tournament prize to Tsuyoshi. For a shaman, this prize was worth dying for. Tsuyoshi opened it and checked the contents. There were rare formulas capable of earning him a fortune in his own world. Even so, Fulin didn't understand why he refused to become Kevin's apprentice. She believed that with so much talent and magical power, he could become a great shaman. But Tsuyoshi made it clear that he didn't want to follow that path. He was a warrior. He was healed, had no more reasons to stay, and now only wanted to rest a little, find Sakura, and leave. Before departing, he explained to Fulin that Sakura Asura was his adventure companion, someone who had become a true friend. Tsuyoshi was in the inn room, thinking that he had never examined the infinity ring calmly. Since obtaining that item, he hadn't had time to stop and analyze it. The system warned him once again that he couldn't linger too long in that world. The debug was unstable, and if he stayed there for more than 3 days, he risked being trapped forever. Given this, he decided to return to his own world. Now that he possessed the tournament's prize formulas, he could earn billions of yen. Upon returning, President Suzuki welcomed him and began showing the new mansion to him and his sister. Tsuyoshi took the opportunity to ask if he could turn one of the mansion's rooms into a small potion laboratory. Suzuki was surprised by the request, but soon accepted the idea and arranged the room with all the necessary equipment. With the money obtained from the tournament prize, Tsuyoshi went to the Blue Serpent gang headquarters. 2 guards tried to prevent him from entering, but he explained that he had business with the gang leader. The guards asked for his name to confirm entry. At that moment, one of the guys previously defeated by Tsuyoshi appeared and ordered the guards to let him through, saying the leader had personally summoned him. Tsuyoshi was then taken to the Blue Serpent leader, a level 24 warrior with the same class as him. Without further ado, Tsuyoshi opened a briefcase and handed over the full loan amount with interest, totaling 600,000 yen. He asked them to verify the amount, even if the leader thought such formality was unnecessary. The leader introduced Tsuyoshi to the second-in-command of the gang, as well as to the president of Crazy Wolf. The protagonist carefully observed each of them, analyzing their levels and strength. He realized that their combat power wasn't bad. The leader noticed Tsuyoshi had examined everyone at once and decided to get straight to the point. The Blue Serpent and Crazy Wolf wanted to ask a favor. They wished to end past conflicts and proposed an alliance. Tsuyoshi didn't understand why. They apologized for Billy's behavior, who had been sent to another city for discipline. They also admitted that Crazy Wolf's men acted wrongly and apologized for that. The Crazy Wolf president mentioned that the spatial ring they had left with Tsuyoshi contained tracking magic, but this magic had already been removed, and now he could use it without concern. Tsuyoshi was startled upon hearing this. Only then did he realize how reckless it had been to put the ring on his finger without checking. Even so, he stated that he had already settled his issues with Billy at school. He didn't care about any punishment applied to the boy. For him, the matter was closed, as the Crazy Wolf members had tried to kill him, and he had only defended himself. The Blue Serpent leader insisted that Tsuyoshi accept the money, but the young man refused. He didn't like owing favors and considered paying his debts natural. Still, he wanted to understand the reason for this sudden change in behavior. He didn't like dealing with gangs or guilds. The leader explained that Tsuyoshi's achievements in Future Star had spread. Almost all influential people already knew who he was, and even President Suzuki was trying to recruit him. Now guilds and gangs were trying to establish ties with him. No one wanted confrontations. They were weaker and only wanted a friendly relationship. Tsuyoshi had no idea how his fame had grown. After the conversation, he said goodbye and left. Everyone asked him to visit again someday. Outside, he decided it was time to buy ingredients and start producing his first potions in the new laboratory. He arrived at an alchemy supply store and spoke to the vendor, who treated him with disdain, saying he could take whatever he wanted from the loose stock, as if he were just anyone. Tsuyoshi made it clear that this wasn't enough, and he knew this was the largest potion ingredient store in the region. He wanted 15 ingredients, all listed. When the man saw the list, he was very surprised and thought it was some kind of trick. Tsuyoshi offered 9 million yen and asked if it was enough. The man immediately changed his attitude and asked Tsuyoshi to sit, saying he would prepare the ingredients right away. Since everything was in the warehouse, it would take some time. The man said the entire stock would cost 6,600,000 yen. Tsuyoshi then stated that the remaining 2,400,000 yen would be held as a deposit for the month. If necessary, he could even sign a contract, as all the paperwork was ready. The man saw no problem with that and thought the deposit was sufficient. Additionally, the ingredients Tsuyoshi wanted had fairly stable prices. After closing the deal, Tsuyoshi returned to the apartment and noticed that the laboratory they had set up was very well suited. Karina informed him that President Suzuki had paid for the entire renovation out of his own pocket. Tsuyoshi then thought that he would need to return that favor someday. He knew that the reason for creating the lab was because of a promise. He wanted to bring back his sister's smile like in the old days. Karina didn't fully understand, but Tsuyoshi let it go, saying he needed to start immediately and asked her to leave. She didn't know why, but he apologized, saying he needed to focus. Tsuyoshi began by taking a wooden box from his divine inventory and the potion ingredients packed inside the spatial ring. He needed 3 main ingredients for the basic circulatory stimulant and 6 different ingredients for each of the other 2 potions. Using his divine eye, he automatically analyzed the ideal ingredients in that world and also learned the refinement process, which made everything easier. In the final step, he mixed the antgrass extract with green vine extract in a 1:3 ratio. After that, he heated the mixture. Even with a simple device, he thought it would be sufficient for now. In the normal world, the refinement process would end there, but there was a risk that chemical reactions could fail, and success was unstable. So, he used shamanic techniques to accelerate the fusion and mana infusion, increasing the chance of success and the medicinal effects. Now he could use the basic staff he had bought before returning. With free space in his inventory, he had left the Divine King's hammer in the other world. But since time froze on the other side, he believed it was fine. He started the fusion process and successfully completed it. He drank the potion himself, as he was his own lab rat. Everything went perfectly in the end. He was very happy because capsules from that world couldn't produce such good effects. The only problem was the terrible taste, so he decided to condense everything into capsules. Both worlds offered many opportunities for Tsuyoshi to explore. He then began mass-producing the basic circulatory stimulant, and if the market response was good, everything would go according to plan. The next day, he headed to the entrance of a certain cave. He hid his identity with a hood. He thought the place was ideal because many adventurers passed through. When they saw him, they recognized him as a merchant, and he brought a stock of power capsules. He shouted that he had new power capsules, saying that a package of 6 capsules was perfect for adventurers. People were curious and went to take a look, but the price wasn't cheap. He was charging 24,000 yen for 6 capsules. People began to get irritated and thought it was a scam. Some even wanted to hit him, but Tsuyoshi had brought some samples for them to try, saying that if they weren't satisfied with the effects, they could destroy his stand. However, if they were impressed, they would have to buy a whole box. One of the men who had complained the most about the price decided to try first. As soon as he took the capsule, he felt an instant improvement and widened his eyes in surprise. Tsuyoshi explained that the capsule increased HP recovery and resistance by 45%, reduced damage taken by 12%, and the effects lasted 10 minutes. After that, everyone around decided to buy after seeing its effectiveness. A crowd began to gather around Tsuyoshi, and he warned that the limit was 10 boxes per person. People started spreading the news to friends and family, and the line grew longer and longer, as did Tsuyoshi's profits. The news reached Red Tier, one of the 3 largest pharmaceutical companies. In the market analysis room, during a meeting with the production department, reports showed that week the prices of the 3 main products had dropped to half of their previous value. The reason was the appearance of dark capsules that were very similar, clearly not belonging to the other 2 companies in the sector. The 3 affected products were the circulatory stimulant capsule, the nutritional capsule, and the mana recharge capsule. Red Tier's president, named Misa, appeared at the meeting and said that they couldn't fall behind. She explained that the company was already conducting a thorough investigation on the matter and would soon provide details. Even so, she felt that everything was moving too slowly, as the company was already entering a difficult situation. Meanwhile, at the entrance of a dungeon, adventurers were offering amounts far above what Tsuyoshi charged because of the quality of his products. He believed a week had passed, and everything was going according to plan. The trap was set, and now he just needed to wait for the prey. Suddenly, Misa appeared in front of him and said she was willing to pay 100 times the normal price for just 10 minutes of his time. Tsuyoshi realized he had finally caught a big fish. The 2 met to talk, and Misa thanked him for agreeing to speak with her. Then she introduced herself as the president of Red Tier. Tsuyoshi hadn't expected that one of the leaders of the largest pharmaceutical companies would be such a young and beautiful woman. Misa got straight to the point, saying she wanted to buy the formula for the 3 types of capsules. Tsuyoshi didn't waste time and said the price was 10 billion yen. Misa was surprised by the amount and said it was excessive, explaining that the company's budget had run out and that he should talk to his associates. She said the maximum they could offer was 3 billion yen, which was already a lot considering the quality of the formulas. But Tsuyoshi refused, saying that if it wasn't 10 billion, the deal wouldn't happen. He explained that he had no associates and had created everything himself. For him, these capsules would completely change market competitiveness, and he knew Red Tier was in a crisis. Misa was surprised to see that he already knew this. Tsuyoshi showed Misa a graph, clearly indicating that Aoyama, Red Tier, and Tatsumi dominated almost the entire capsule market. But the data revealed that Red Tier's market share had fallen from a peak of 26% to 12% over the last 23 years. The company's products had lost their competitive edge. Misa was amazed at how prepared Tsuyoshi was for this conversation. He knew she understood that his capsules were reshaping the market, and that if Red Tier obtained the formulas, they could dominate again. That's why he considered 10 billion yen a fair price. Misa accepted the price, but since they were conducting an honest transaction, she wanted to know at least his name. Tsuyoshi gave his name but asked that it be kept secret. They shook hands, and her subordinate handed over the card with 10 billion yen. In the the end, Misa didn't regret the decision. She thought the young man was very promising, especially for being so young, and that a genius like him needed to be protected at all costs. Now that Red Tier had the formulas, they would prepare the next major marketing campaign. At the cafe, Tsuyoshi told President Suzuki everything, who was shocked by how he had managed to earn so much money in just 1 week. However, the president spoke so loudly that several employees overheard that Tsuyoshi had earned 10 billion yen. The protagonist showed the card, explaining that he had a valuable formula and had closed a small deal. Now he wanted to know if the president could reserve his place in the auction. He already had the money, but still needed to meet the second condition, which was to obtain the rank C hero status. The president recalled that to participate in the Supernova tournament, Tsuyoshi needed to rank among the top 3 at least twice in public dungeons. The problem was that only 1 day remained. Even so, Tsuyoshi believed that was enough and asked the president to take him to see the dungeons the next morning. That night, in his mansion, his sister said goodnight to him. Tsuyoshi thought that since the president would take him to the dungeon, he needed to become a bit stronger first. He was stuck at level 12 and needed to level up. So he went to the other world. Upon arriving, he realized that Sakura hadn't returned yet. He also noticed that in that world, he couldn't do much without her. Even so, he believed she knew about his victory in the refinement tournament and that she might return the next day. Suddenly, some crows appeared, causing a large explosion around him. Tsuyoshi wanted to understand who was launching the surprise magical attack. A member of the Night Owl tribe appeared. She was a level 32 mage who admitted she had underestimated him, believing he wouldn't escape. Tsuyoshi didn't understand why she was targeting him and thought the Assassin Guild had sent her. Immediately after, a level 30 assassin appeared behind him, attempting an ambush. Tsuyoshi blocked the strike and activated his ultimate body enhancement. He said he didn't remember crossing paths with either of them before, but the woman responded that they had been hired and he was simply very unlucky. The assassin wanted to understand how Tsuyoshi had avoided all attacks, since he was only level 12 and his reflexes and endurance didn't match. The mage and the assassin then coordinated their attacks and charged at him, but he managed to dodge again and activated his Chain Thunderfall skill. The mage created an energy shield, and the assassin concluded that level 12 truly didn't match what he was witnessing. Even so, the assassin said that since he was level 12, he would take him down painlessly and quickly. He used a skill, but Tsuyoshi blocked it once again. The mage also prepared another skill. Even while blocking the attacks, Tsuyoshi suffered damage from the impacts. He didn't know whether he should use the Divine King's hammer and risk his life in that battle. In the end, he decided to summon the hammer. Suddenly, he heard a voice asking if he was hiding something. His eyes widened as he recognized it. It was Kevin himself. Without delay, Kevin activated the secret seal he had placed on the protagonist. The seal exploded, causing massive damage to Tsuyoshi's body. Kevin explained that removing the darkness from Tsuyoshi's body had been the right choice because it allowed him to incorporate the secret within him. He said a mysterious energy radiated from the boy and wanted to know if this was the source of so much talent. Tsuyoshi just wanted to understand why Kevin had done this. Kevin believed Tsuyoshi was pretending to be harmless, but actually thought he was just a fool. The mage couldn't believe Kevin himself was there. The assassin said that, with those injuries, the boy wouldn't escape anymore. Kevin thanked them for their help and recalled the material he had requested. He made it clear that Tsuyoshi shouldn't fight. The secret was incorporated into his chest, and Kevin had left him alive the last time when he was completely defenseless. Tsuyoshi still didn't understand the reason for all this, as he had never done anything against Kevin. Then Kevin revealed that Tsuyoshi's talent in refinement was a direct threat, and that was why he had to die. Hearing this, the protagonist began to laugh. Deep down, he knew that the great master Kevin, considered a genius, was afraid of him and had acted cowardly. Kevin became furious at these words and promised to tear Tsuyoshi's brain to pieces. At that moment, Fulin ran in, asking her master to leave the boy alone. Kevin was impressed to see Fulin showing compassion for a human. Even so, he said she wasn't involved and should leave. But when she refused to go, Kevin struck her forcefully. Kevin made it clear that no matter who appeared, that would be the protagonist's last day. He then used a spell called Annihilation, which was cruel and concentrated a massive amount of magical energy on the victim's brain, causing internal deformation. As the magic was activated, Tsuyoshi's system sent a message saying an update was in progress. 10% of the surrounding energy had already been absorbed to repair the user's body. This made Tsuyoshi's body exude intense energy. Kevin couldn't understand what was happening, as his magic had been absorbed in an instant. The mage saw that the boy was still alive and also wanted to understand how this was possible. Thanks to Fulin's intervention, Tsuyoshi had gained enough time. At the moment of the explosion, the divine selection system triggered an emergency alert. This allowed the protagonist's body to begin regenerating. During the update, the continuous absorption system was interrupted, but now he knew there was no way out. He would either die there or Kevin would. Even with his body destroyed, Tsuyoshi would not retreat. He summoned the Divine King's hammer again. As the system update was still in progress, the hammer began destroying his muscles while the system simultaneously regenerated them. The pain was extreme, but he did not stop. Kevin realized that the protagonist's energy was unstable, yet incredibly powerful. He just wanted to understand how the boy maintained it. Amidst everything, Tsuyoshi felt he was turning disaster into luck. The hammer destroyed his body, and the system regenerated it without pause. In this way, he would reduce everything to dust. Frightened, Kevin summoned an energy shield, but it was useless. Tsuyoshi easily destroyed the shield, making it clear he would fulfill his promise. He would turn everyone there into dust. Meanwhile, even walking unsteadily and badly injured, Fulin remained. A level 58 beastman, desperate, begged her to spare him. He just wanted to escape. Sakura angrily asked what that beastman was talking about, remembering clearly that at that time, he had shown no mercy to her father. The beastman tried to explain that he wasn't the true mentor, and also believed she had left that world along with the Beast King. But for her, it didn't matter, because even if he wasn't the leader, he was still an accomplice. His name was written in the notebook along with the others, and she swore she would take revenge on everyone who insulted and incriminated her father. The Beastman tried to justify that he had been threatened and had no choice, because the current Beast King was her father's rival, and disobedience could cost his life. When she drew her sword, the Beastman also drew his, unwilling to passively accept death. If she attacked, he would try to kill her first. Sakura then activated her skill called Flower Storm and struck the enemy. Before dying, he acknowledged that she had mastered her father's technique. Sakura never imagined she would encounter that man just as she was focused on killing Kevin. Back then, he was the gatekeeper who secretly opened the gate for the invaders, so she intended to forgive none of her father's traitors. Suddenly, she felt a very strong presence and realized her master was in danger. Tsuyoshi was in a critical state, experiencing intense pain, his bones breaking constantly and his soul seeming to burn. The system indicated that if the update reached 100%, his body would be destroyed. An assassin tried to attack him, but the pressure around him was so intense that the enemy couldn't move. This pressure came from the Divine King's hammer, which paralyzed any enemy without high resistance to lightning. Tsuyoshi saw the assassin approaching and decided to strike him with all his strength, eliminating another obstacle. Now only Kevin and the mage remained. The update was at 48%, and the collapse limit marked 6.6%. Kevin ordered the mage to avoid close combat, as Tsuyoshi was approaching quickly. Kevin suspected something was wrong with the energy around the boy. The mage realized she had no potions to heal herself and decided to surrender. But the protagonist, furious, ignored the surrender. For him, it no longer mattered, as she had tried to kill him until that moment. So he advanced at high speed and struck the mage with full force. The update rose to 63%, while the collapse limit approached 76%. Seeing the mage die, Kevin grew angry, considering them useless. He had trusted them to stop Tsuyoshi, but now he was alone. He then activated a skill called Laws of Earth, Wind, and Thunder, asserting that the boy would never be able to drag him down because he did not understand the true power of the laws. Kevin found it interesting to have been forced to use this power. He launched his attack, but Tsuyoshi resisted, and the system panel showed that the collapse limit had reached 86%. Tsuyoshi then decided to sacrifice his own life to further amplify the power of the hammer, forcibly releasing 30% of the Divine King's hammer's power, while the update was still at 63%.